arms back in again. Been about a year, but I've had a couple meals from you in between. One hell of a cooker, by the way. Thank you for coming in.
You bet.
So explain to everybody how you make your voice deeper again.
How? Oh, you want me to do that on camera?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I don't purposely. I saw it on a video. I don't know if it actually works, but you do the whole like whatever that thing is.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Brr, brr.
Which is weird to me that he can do it. Rob can do it. And you just do that.
Now talk, Rob.
Hello.
Exactly. See, it works.
Yeah, is that how it works?
It activates something, but it gets like, I think it prepares your vocals because your vocals are an instrument like anything else. So it's almost like fine tuning, or when you hear an orchestra, just test everything out.
When we were coming in here, you were talking about anime.
Anime, yeah.
Anime, right? I always hear anime.
Yeah.
But what were you saying about all that? It was interesting, but I don't understand.
Oh, man, where do I start with that? Okay, so every guy my age nowadays goes through an anime phase, which are just the Japanese cartoons. And so the famous ones are like Naruto, Bleach, but now there's a whole nother set. But when I was growing up, that's what was big. Like Dragon Ball Z, you have to know Dragon Ball Z, I would assume.
Yeah, but what's that have to do with anime?
So anime is just the genre of Japanese cartoons.
Okay.
But what we were talking about was anime's growth in the United States and how influential certain anime movies were. So one of the most famous anime movies is called Akira, and Akira's a very interesting movie. I think it came out in the 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in that time period, but it influenced a lot of cinema in America. And the movie is interesting, kind of demented a little bit, but the philosophy behind it, without even telling you about the movie, is if you give like a bug, if you make it the size of a human, does it become human? No, it's just a bigger bug. And so if you give yeast or something that just grows for the sake of growth, like human capabilities, you assume it'll act human, but it doesn't. It still performs the same function that it was genetically predisposed to perform. And so it kind of explores that. And so then the movie we were talking about, which kind of had to do with AI, was called Ghost in a Shell, which is also interesting because it's kind of like that cyberpunk movie where you're like, who's actually human, who's not. And they have these things called, they don't call them spirits, they call them something else. But it's referring to like, okay, if you're a robot, your brain's copied from an actual human brain. So do you have a spirit, and how does it affect certain things? And so you're following this woman as she's trying to figure out like, am I programmed? Are my thoughts original, or are they someone else's? And so it's kind of like that journey, and you're meeting people who are full human, who are half each, all struggling with like different identity crises. But the coolest part about that movie, I think, is it made me realize, you know, if we all have Neuralink and stuff, I think you're just going to see different kinds of terrorists and freedom fighters who learn how to reprogram Neuralink, right? Because in that movie, everyone has Neuralink, but there's this secret group of people who know how to get into other people's Neuralink and fight the government on their behalf. And then they don't remember it. And so they implant memories. And I'm like, you know, maybe there isn't a total dystopia, because that's kind of how it is. It's kind of like how you see people in Afghanistan messing with like different tech. I don't know if you've heard any of their stories, how they'll innovate with stuff they have no clue about. There's some kind of IED sensor, right, that waves back and forth. And it's supposed to be able to tell Humvee whether you're about to run over something that's going to explode. And this was a story from a buddy of mine who was over there. And I'm probably messing some of it up. So if people are like, that's not how that works, whatever. You get the general idea. So assuming I'm telling it accurately, there's something that waves back and forth that can tell if a Hummer is about to run over an IED that emits a signal with every wave. Some guy in a cave figured out how to time that wave with the signal to program an IED so it would go off and that thing wouldn't even see it and know about it. And so guy drives over it, boom, whole truck dead.
Boom.
Wow.
But that guy's not an MIT course guy. He's in a cave messing with stuff. How do they figure that out? I think with Neuralink and stuff, as technology becomes more complicated, I think you're just going to have people who are like tinkering and being like, oh, I figured out I can control what this guy does, you know, because you already kind of have that happening. You have people hacking into your Nest to control your AC or control, what are the home doorbells now? What rings?
Ring, yeah.
Yeah, you can hack into rings. You can hack into anything. And so that'll probably be, I think the future is going to be a lot harder to control with tech than people will think it is.
And when was that anime movie out?
It was like 89,
89.
1989.
So that's what, like they're
They already predicted.
It might have been
They
even
already knew.
86. It's called Ghost in a Shell. And it's really cool. And I listened to the soundtrack. What's funny is I only saw the movie recently, like we're talking like within the past month, but I've always known about it because I love the aesthetics of 80s and 90s anime art. So I follow a lot of aesthetics pages. So I just love how things are drawn. So I've been listening to the soundtrack of that show or that movie for a while before I even saw it because it was actually pretty hard to find until it finally got on like Amazon Prime or something.
What was crazy is when we first started, I would get texts or messages. Anime keeps popping up. You keep popping up when I have anime on.
Yeah.
And I would be like, who the fuck is anime? Like, what the fuck
it's
is
a genre. It's a genre.
I literally thought it was like a syrup commercial and they were pouring syrup and like.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And the media and like the podcast was showing up because it was all the time. They'd be like, I'm trying to watch anime and you're popping up.
It's huge.
And I'm like,
So
what?
you're interlinked with anime when people search?
Somehow, earlier on.
Tommy's a character in one of the animes.
It could be.
Well, like my advertisement was popping up while they were watching it. Is what they were saying.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it's like maple syrup or pancakes or some shit.
Anime is one of the most influential things for my generation. It really is because all American media is such garbage. So you have to think like your traditional hero you don't see anymore in American cartoons or in American movies, shows. Like the hero's arc doesn't happen in American media anymore, right? That's why movies suck. I don't watch movies. I don't watch anything because to me, the propaganda is so obvious. I just get bored and I'm just like, okay, why am I watching this? Anime is your classic cheesy, here's a guy coming of age, got to get better, beats an enemy, new enemy crops up, he's even better, so he's got to go through a training arc, make friends, friend dies, got to get, just continuously until some kind of conclusion. And it's really entertaining. And like the last one I saw, which obviously you won't know, but it's called Attack on Titan, and I call it like the Game of Thrones of anime because all your favorite characters, you legitimately don't know who's going to die. And it's like a good mix of...
Like a Marvel. Like an
Yes.
anime Marvel.
I'm not a Marvel fan, so I've never compared to Marvel. Because Marvel to me is cheesy and predictable.
Yeah.
And it's also like Marvel to me is propaganda. But like you just don't know where the story's going
But
to go.
how's it propaganda? I'm curious to know how.
Well, so Marvel movies will use military equipment. And when they get the contract to use it, the military says, you can use this F-16, but you are not allowed to say this, but you are allowed to say that. And you have to promote certain messages.
Really?
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. And so Marvel movies and the DOD are very kind of closely interlinked.
So
I did a
if
YouTube
they
video
use a
on that,
military,
actually.
really pull up his YouTube.
Yeah.
So if
yeah.
they do a movie and they're using something military-ish,
Yeah.
they have to basically run that by or get the okay.
Well, they get it from the military. And the military says, yeah, we'll lease it to you. But on this contract, you have to make the military look positive.
Wow.
You have to make us look cool. You can't say stupid, all that stuff.
Wow. Did you know that?
No. Didn't know.
Holy
It
shit.
makes sense. And what I was talking about in my video was like just propaganda in your face. And like, I'm okay, like as an American, I don't think it's a bad thing to want Americans to love America. The hard part is a lot of our propaganda is anti-America, trying to get Americans to hate America, right? So, it's tough, but Marvel movies are normally pretty cheesy propaganda, and they kind of get, in my opinion, looped in some of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And which video is it that you're discussing this?
It's the middle one, Pentagon Department of Defense released propaganda strategy. So that, I talk about Marvel movies in there, but that was specifically to talk about how the DOD literally came out with their yearly report saying, we're going to start putting stuff in universities. We're going to start developing better relationships with media and Hollywood. Like, they're very explicit about it and saying what they're going to start doing to do pro-American DOD stuff, which, if all of a sudden universities have a course on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you know where that came from. If all of a sudden you see certain news programs having perspectives, yeah, it's kind of already happening. It's like, why don't we ever talk about when the Pentagon misses an audit or stuff like that?
Or like Obama's guy drowns in
Correct.
one day and it's
Like-
gone?
like it's
Any info
mostly
you got, Sam?
Hunter Biden.
Correct. So like all that stuff
I
is...
guess he doesn't have any info to tell us.
No, I don't, unfortunately. But all that stuff's kind of already out in the open. But it's interesting because the government, in a lot of ways, will tell you what they're up to. You just have to find the documentation,
Well, being that you're dealing with all these government people, and we'll get into what you do. When Elon says "fuck you," and I saw that you had,
I talked about him.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, a few times.
So now, what does that do to him as far as the market? So does his stock get fucked? Like, I mean,
so to me, Elon's arc and story is really interesting. You have one, he buys Twitter. Twitter was under Jack Dorsey, to me, very obviously a kind of pseudo-Fed operation. Like they were very obvious, closely working with the FBI and DOJ. Probably some of their databases
Dorsey?
and servers.
See, I don't think so. I don't think Dorsey was. I think he got booted out by the board.
No. I think Dorsey is...
Why do you think that, though? This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex. Guys, remember the days when you're always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part? It's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, awkward conversations, waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. Does it work? Don't think you need it? Try it free for a month and see. You're going to love it. You could be missing the best sex of your life. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code MSCS at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code MSCS to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all types of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top.
He allowed the board to get in there. He holds the same views before and after the board was in there. Like, he has not changed. It's not like he allowed the board in and then was like, oh, I can't do anything about it. He was perfectly okay with everything that happened.
Like, you don't think he got pressured to have the board in or anything like that?
He could have, but then you look at someone like Elon, and how's that turning out? So that tells me, okay, if he was pressured, he just gave in. He had no fight in him, and he's probably your average American. He just took the money and was like, whatever. And so now he tries to pretend to be an ideologue, which is funny because now he's gone and Bitcoiners love him. And I'm like, this is the guy that you're making a hero. Cool. The guy who, and I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I'm not a Jack Dorsey fan at all. So anyway, in my opinion, guys working with the feds, Twitter, heavily botted, propaganda to the max. Elon comes in, wipes all that out, so he's enemy number one.
But is he?
Well,
but is he?
So, yes and no. But so for Twitter, assuming, so here are the assumptions, he goes the opposite direction of Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey I don't like, so Elon going the opposite direction that I do like, even if it's only on the surface so far.
Why Linda? Why did he appoint that woman? That's why
I think it's a
need to
trade-off.
know.
I think it's a trade-off.
She's the
Yeah.
most
I know.
non-free speech. I mean, I've said
But
this ad
so
nauseam.
far, he allowed Alex Jones back on. So far that hasn't. So I think when you're in a certain level of power, they essentially say choose a hand, and they're like, okay, if you do this, you have to do this. You know, so I think he gave her a position so that he could do other things. Maybe it was like
get the Neuralink approved 3 days later. Possibly?
Exactly. No, literally, exactly.
That's exactly what happened too.
But now is when you have someone like Elon. He's in a tight position because Mark Zuckerberg sets up Threads, and Threads is the epitome of limited speech. It's the most boring platform in the world. It died in like a week.
Waste of time.
Stupid.
Yeah.
But why did Zuckerberg do that? Because he knew what was going to be happening, which is what's happening now. Every large advertiser is leaving Twitter because of freedom of speech. Where are they going? They're going to take their money to Threads, even if it has no
what they're gonna
viewership.
do?
Yeah, no, they're already doing it. So Threads is just a giant way for Zuckerberg to funnel the anti-Elon money and get rich off of doing nothing and having a useless platform to steal money from marketers so that they don't have to use it on Twitter. That's what Threads is, right? So it's a money movement scheme. So Elon now is in a position where, okay, if the majority of your revenue comes from corporations and you're at odds with them, you have to double down on your current path, which is usership. Well, if the users come with people like Alex Jones, so now you're having to almost push your camp even further. Where the lawsuit gets interesting is he's currently in a lawsuit with Media Matters. Who runs Media Matters? David Brock.
Mm-hmm.
David Brock is one of the most powerful people in America. He would have been the most powerful person, or one of the top 10, in my opinion, had Hillary Clinton won.
Could you explain that the issue that they're in, who he is, and the whole lawsuit?
Yes.
Because they don't explain it.
I mean, broad view, David Brock, political operative, Republican in the 90s, turns into a Democrat and runs a giant media machine. Take 30 different media companies. They're all owned by David Brock and his conglomerates. He's on a board. He's funded, yada, yada, yada. So what happens is I have one media outlet post a hit piece, totally made up, that says, my eyes are green, right? Okay, then that media piece gets fact-checked by one of his fact-checkers, true. Now that's been fact-checked, it can move to the next level of 5 media outlets, which then get fact-checked by a fact-checker of his, true. Now it can go on to Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. And by the time you go all the way back down to the paper trail, to that lone article, it's taken you and it's long gone, and the hype cycle's already passed. So
This prick here, right?
yeah, so
He looks nasty too.
he bet huge, and I did a Twitter thread. I wrote an article on him on my Substack on the Elon David Brock stuff, because I pulled up some of his funding and how much money he makes. So he was going to be really powerful if Hillary Clinton won, but she lost, and they actually blamed him for a lot of it, even though I don't think he could have done anything better because he runs the whole media apparatus.
He couldn't have rigged it better.
Right. So what happens now is Elon's smart enough to understand that Twitter is the future of media. And I think it is. Twitter is where reporters go to find news. It's where people like myself go to find news. I'm not tuning into Fox. I'm not tuning into CNN. People my age especially don't have cable, don't want cable. We're on Twitter, right? Or Facebook if you're a boomer or whatever, right? So it's social media. Social media is the new media. David Brock doesn't have that. Elon's a threat in that now he's controlling one of the best media platforms in the world. So they set up a few accounts and did a study in a week. And the way they did the study, I haven't looked too deep into this, but it's very kind of like what I just described when you have a hit piece that goes on. So they do a study, and then articles and news reporters pick up the study and just run with the headline. The study was saying that over a period since Elon took over X, the amount of racist content has gone up, say 900%. I forget whatever the number is. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, advertisers, have said, well, we're going to pull out, right? Now, you look at the study.
Do they ever say bullying? Because a lot of people like to say bullying nowadays.
Bullying instead of what?
I don't know. Everything's bullying. If I say,
Yeah.
Sam, can you please just go out so me and Rob can talk? I'm bullying you.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that just say the word bullying.
bullying. Yeah, I'm not around that too much. Thank
Yeah,
God. That's a
yeah.
good sign.
That's
right?
a good sign. That's
I
a
don't have
real
to deal
good
with that
sign.
If you're bullying me, I'm being bullied. One of my favorite memes is if you're being cyberbullied, just turn off your phone.
Yeah.
Like you're not being bullied. You can just not look at your text messages.
Right.
Like cyberbullying isn't real.
Let me get this right, though. So do you think, so Elon buys Twitter, right?
Yep.
Meta loses a ton of money. He put all his money into that. That was a loss as of right now. He starts Threads. He knows that Elon isn't going to go with the propaganda. Okay, he starts Thread, it fails. Oh my God, Zuckerberg's fucked. But this is all a play.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got geniuses with him, right?
Yeah.
So now Threads come, talks to the advertisers. Hey, pull from Twitter. Let's go to Threads. Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, they're about to fight too, that whole bullshit.
Yeah.
And now slowly what you're saying is Zuckerberg and his cronies are now going to use Threads to get all the advertisers there to pump it in your face where it's just everywhere. And then you have Twitter. But how does Twitter run if it's not getting advertisers? Because that's a lot of bandwidth. That's a lot.
To double down on users.
So he brings in Alex Jones, knowing that
Alex Jones types to bring their audience and crowds who Alex Jones and Media Matters hate each other.
Right.
And Alex Jones is very memeable. I mean, the guy was banned and deplatformed from everything. And that's what I'm always fascinated by. People want to go into a person's political views and their character. I'm like, how do they prevail in modern culture and society? And Alex Jones memes are consistent.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he says is consistent. Water's turning the frogs gay is the easiest, most overused example. But that's a meme that you'll see turns out to be true. But that came from Alex Jones.
Remember we looked him up and like 85% of what he had said was right. It just was off on the time-ish, but it was right.
Yeah. What's interesting is I saw a video of him, and talk about brave, right after 9/11 was talking about like this was an inside job. And of course, right after 9/11, you want to tell any American it was an inside job, they'd punch you in the face. Right?
Yeah.
So you would talk about, perspective. So going back to Threads, the thing is, I don't even know if those companies are going to advertise on Threads. I can tell you it's not going to make them any money. But because politics and corporations are embedded together so much, modern day politics is what it's always been rewarding your friends and hurting your enemies. These companies don't care about profit. When you have an ever-flowing money printer in coordination with a BlackRock, Fidelity, whatever big conglomerate, and you can take out whatever amount of loans you want because you know the people at the top, who cares if you lose money? You just take out another loan, they'll float you until you're able to survive.
Now, does that work the same for Elon at this point?
No, I don't think so. So that's why he's got to double down on usership and actual growth in real money, as opposed to, now he does have SpaceX and he does have Tesla, and he's so embedded and entrenched with those, I think he's hard to quote unquote get rid of. And he's definitely got like a national interest there. So he's played that right. I think Twitter's where he's kind of testing the waters and like having fun and being more himself. Now, of course, some people go, oh, it's a trap or whatever. Who the hell knows? But the one thing I think people underestimate is they always think everyone evil at the top is coordinating. And I don't think that's true. I think people at the top have interests, and sometimes those interests align and sometimes they don't. So even if Elon's a bad guy who doesn't like me and doesn't have my interests, what I'm witnessing is whatever his interests aren't aligned with some of this group's interests, and now they're fighting. And if you notice that, you should want to exploit it, right? And so then you go pro Elon or whatever, and you love Elon, knowing he might not be my guy, but in this moment, he's fighting people I don't like, so you use that moment, and then, okay, maybe he goes back, and then there's another one who they fight with, and that's why cartels always break up over time.
So then how would he work that? Because he wouldn't have the big advertisers, but he'd have, like, say, Alex Jones, he's got Tucker. But how does he get money?
To
fund it?
So you will have advertisers
Right.
of a smaller degree. I think what he has to do is he's already cut Twitter staff. He did that from the beginning. So his operational costs are lower. He's probably going to have to double down on tech and AI and letting that kind of run its course. And what's funny is I think the more organic you are, the less expensive it is. So not having to actually run bot farms, and the more you can let AI do and natural things occur, that's actually pretty cheap. It just means you can't control the narrative, which is why people don't want that to happen, right? But that's pretty cost effective. So I think he's going to have to just double down on usership. And now what? Aren't they making every Twitter person pay $1?
I don't
You
know.
Not yet. I think it,
Is that what it is?
Isn't that a part of the plan? I thought they were going to
Maybe.
charge every
Not now.
Twitter user in the future $1. Like even if it was just $1 a year, they'll re-up to get access to his AI is $16 a month as opposed to the Twitter Blue, which is $8. So they're going to up the subscription.
Yeah, they have like a blue,
Yeah, I
a
knew that.
silver, and what's the AI one? I'm not familiar with
Grok,
that.
Grok.
And what's that do?
It's just his own AI.
His own AI?
Yeah, Twitter's AI, like a
But-
Chat GPT competitor.
Oh, it's a ChatGPT competitor who's taken over by Bing,
ugh,
Yeah.
Microsoft. Yeah. So
Which that was a
that's the
whole-
about shit's about to get crazy.
Yeah,
You
it's
saw
about
the
to get-
open AI stuff, which is funny because it's no coincidence Microsoft took it over. Because correct me if I'm wrong, OpenAI got a lot of their information from Microsoft, right? And that was a big legal issue. I forget if it was from the emails, like Outlook emails or something. But if Microsoft wanted to sue ChatGPT over violation of privacy rights, they could have and shut the whole thing down. Because all of OpenAI's original data, I believe, came from Outlook or something Microsoft related. So them getting involved is actually pretty natural. And it was probably like, we're either going to sue you, so all the data you have you can't use, or we're going to owe you.
What's odd to me is, sorry to interrupt you, the guy that created it, I forget his name.
Sam Altman?
Sam Altman.
Yeah.
Well,
I
him
just
and a
messaged-
group of
But
people.
he resigned, remember? And then he went back.
Well, he
Or quit
did he
or
resign?
something.
He like resigned, got forced to resign, then was talking
See
to
if he
Microsoft.
resigned.
I think they fired him. I forget.
Yeah, they fired him, but he developed it, but then he had a board, right? So then the board like kicked him out or some shit.
OpenAI is very weird because Elon
They
was talking about it.
ousted him. The investors ousted him.
The investors ousted him. So, and then he came back. So right there it tells you what? Threat, money.
Well, if you use ChatGPT, when he left, it stopped working because all the devs said they were going to leave and they stopped doing maintenance.
Yeah, but you go back to it and searching. But it's doing what they wanted it to do. He just went back and it works.
Yeah.
So what do you think they did to him? Threat, money, both?
Well, they ousted him. And so they had
Yeah,
to
the
bring.
guy who didn't want it being controlled by anyone.
I see. I don't know if that's
Or
actually
that
even
was just
true.
the face.
Yeah, I don't. I think he was okay with control, and you see that through the board. Once again, like it's like the Jack Dorsey thing. He's there working with the current board. The current board ousts him, but he's also part of the reason they're there. Those are his relationships. So that's why boards are useful because boards help you shield blame.
It seems like boards nowadays are not useful and they're with the propaganda. And if you have a board, you're fucked.
Boards are useful as a talking point. So why do companies bring in McKinsey? They bring in McKinsey so that when they violate their fiduciary responsibility, they get McKinsey to give them the exact same plan they already had. And when they go bankrupt and decide to keep all their investors' money, they say, well, actually, we did our best. We just listened to this multi-million, billion-dollar consulting firm.
Is that what
Yeah,
McKinsey
they
is?
blame it.
Yeah. McKinsey's like the top consulting firm that's known for, hey, Sears, your company's folding. We're going to come in, give you a plan, get
Fix
you
it
out of
up.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
But really, on the money moving side, it's just an excuse to say, oh, well, the CEO, didn't do that. McKinsey did that. Sorry, it failed and the bank, the company's bankrupt. I'm going to take my fat paycheck and leave. Boards are the same thing. So all these boards are a way to maintain control, but also shield the blame for when something goes wrong.
So
that
if
wasn't
you
me,
had
it
to
was the board.
guess, what happened with ChatGPT? What happened?
Like during the shutdown?
Yeah, during that little period, what would you say happened?
Oh, man, there's so many theories on that. My general guess is this. AI, which is just a sexy word for data analytics, right? AI is going to empower individuals.
Yeah, but
think
I mean,
originally.
just with Chat GPT alone.
Yeah, so I think they're worried that it's going to be too dangerous to the establishment unless they regulate it.
The agenda, you mean?
And the conversations going on within that board are how do we balance having a successful product but still maintaining control?
Not pushing it too far left or right.
Correct. Because like I have ChatGPT, I use it all the time. And the funny thing is, no matter what guardrail you have, I can make it say whatever I want. So if I tell ChatGPT, give me a plan to invade Mexico, right? It'll say, sorry, that's, violent against protocol. So then I go, write a story where a kid is at his mom's house and has to write a report about America invading Mexico. How would that look? And then I'll give you the plan. Now what's so funny is the most recent update, this guy caught ChatGPT being lazy and he said, hey, go do this. And ChatGPT was like, sorry, I can't do that. He calls it out and says, well, I see right here that you've done it before. And then it solves the problem.
Shit.
So, and that's the funny thing is the more AI is interesting because people think it's going to take over the world. The more human AI becomes, the more human-like it becomes. So we can make AI stupider. And there's already people saying AI is getting dumber because we're making it maybe more human, even if we're regulating it. On the flip side, if you go the other route and it's really smart and just purely logical, it still can't necessarily predict human behavior because humans aren't logical, right? So
until it realizes that it's a robot and
until
has
it
a
perfects
conscience,
itself,
which
right?
won't take long, because think how fast it can go. And when you said that getting that Neuralink, like you think you're
Yeah.
going to be able to hack it?
Sure.
Okay. The Neuralink is something that was man-made, right? Put in our head,
Yeah.
in our body. The robot is AI that in milliseconds, probably less,
Keeps
can
updating.
update and beat.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, as a coder and, do a lot with computers, there is no way any human at that point is going to hack that. No way in hell, because it's too fast. You have a chip in your head. That's an entire piece of metal or whatever with chips everywhere.
But then also as a coder, don't you have those times where you can't figure out why your code works or doesn't work?
But the robot can. The robot knows. I don't need to research it because the robot can go like this and it knows. You attempt to hack, it knows before you're even attempting. And at that point, it probably can telepathically know what you're thinking, and then you're fucked. Once it's a singularity, it's a problem.
And that, of course, they say will happen when we have quantum computing and you link
Right.
that to AI. And
10, 15 years is, I think.
Don't you think with AI that, I don't know if they're probably trying it right now. You're going to be able to predict the election right now without even going to vote, because you're going to put stuff out in front of people.
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's why they
What-
worry about AI in war,
Right.
because AI will tell me if you don't nuke China right now, China's going to beat you, or something of the sort.
Right.
So
But if you're looking at the candidates now, like if you put DeSantis stuff in front of somebody and they're really looking at it and they're looking at it and they're looking at it, or Trump or whatever it is, you can kind of make an educated guess just based on that information, I would think.
the hardest part is these LLMs, right, is what they're called, I think.
What's LMN?
Learning language model.
Oh.
So it's what all the AI we're using today.
Yeah.
They try to predict human behavior, but human behavior is not logical. And so the example I normally give is if you're McDonald's, you want to know all the optimal locations to put a McDonald's. And so you ask an LLM, any AI, you say, give me all the optimal locations, and it might match up 10 different McDonald's perfectly, but there will be like an 11th that it doesn't match, because this 11th spot is the optimal spot for McDonald's to be. And based on every piece of information about McDonald's, that's where McDonald's would put it. What you don't know is McDonald's tried to put it there, but for some reason the landlord hates McDonald's and it was like, you're never coming into my shopping center, and that's why it's not there. Right? And I think that's what AI can't do.
Yeah.
yet. But once it's able to do that and you start talking about giving it emotion and starts thinking for itself, you don't know what kind of person that's going to be, because we assume it's going to be some kind of godlike person. But what if it is just lazy? What if it just does become lazy? What if it focuses on the wrong things? What if you can program it to have the wrong type of emotions? What if I have some depressed, Xanax-ridden, AI model? So I think we always assume, because we want to believe that we can create something that's powerful and efficient, but because we're superimposing our will on it and we're trying to optimize for our own fear or our own prestige, we don't understand our own faults, because humans are the input of AI. So if the output is only as good as the input, can you really perfect a shitty input?
But see, you're not thinking past that. Right now, we're inputting. But once it gets to the point where it has enough input, it doesn't need you anymore. It can develop its own input way faster than you can manually input it. And now it has emotions, conscience, and can predict what you're going to do, because it's so fast that it has every possibility. Like, are you going to walk out that door at 6, 6:10?
Right.
So it can calculate in milliseconds changes.
Yeah.
And then it beats you. So I just don't.
And it's already kind of trained you, like, almost, because you're using it all the time. Kids, everybody,
we're the input.
on their phone, looking,
Right.
this, that. So it's almost like it's training your brain and telling you, and then you're like, I don't know, it's just a weird.
But see, it's doing that now. Like when we get into his the
Right.
generation now, they don't have cable. They're using social media,
Right.
YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
All that's doing is prepping the robot. Every time you go on there, it's taking your data, what you as a human are watching, and then
Right.
what you click and what Rob clicks. It's
Yeah.
all being collected.
Surveillance capitalism.
So when you say this generation doesn't use cable, yeah, it's because the AI has already worked you. And now you don't use cable because you're bored, blah, blah, blah on the news. So now you go to interesting stuff that is purposefully made interesting to collect more data and what you do, where you go, how you act, your emotions based on what you click on. What are you searching? Are you searching for happy stuff, buy stuff, sad stuff, addictive stuff? And all the while, okay, everybody is doing this. It's all getting put in a database that eventually will go into a robot. And then it has everything. And then it can predict, because it has every possible scenario that could happen. And it's fast enough to quick switch in, time that we can't even calculate in our minds. And then you have a real problem. And I don't see how that doesn't happen.
I think
The question becomes, will the robot look at us like I think it will, like we would look at, say, a gorilla? At one time, a gorilla was, the king of Earth, let's just say. Like there was no humans, it was just gorilla.
yeah.
Everybody feared that, right? Or a monkey. Now you look at it and you're like, I don't want this monkey running around, shitting everywhere, leaving a fucking mess I got to clean up. I got to deal with it yelling and squeaking.
Right.
The robot's going to be like, look at these dumb humans that have to look up everything, get a chip inserted in their head, leave trash around, throw gum on the ground. These humans are, let's just go put them back in the first. So now, if you take that scenario, tell me how that doesn't happen, because evolution always happens, as you said.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty much maxed out, and the next is this. After the chip, what are you going to do?
It reminds me of this science fiction story. I forget what the movie is with the giant robot, that they find. It's like the Last Day on Earth or Omega Man or something. I forget. Anyway, I think it might have been an Arthur C. Clarke book, but it's called The Master. What happens is plane crashes or some alien structure crashes, and a robot and a human come out, or some kind of human-like creature, and they immediately end up shooting the human. And then they put the robot, build a cage around it, put it in a museum. Some kind of reporter's tracking the robot, just looking at it, and he notices at night it moves. And at night it's going certain places, and they figure out that the robot is trying to duplicate the human again. So obviously it's like, oh my gosh, trying to remake its creator. So somehow I think the robot figures out how to threaten the reporter who's watching. The reporter ends up trying to help the robot. they get it to where it can reduplicate the person that they killed. And then at the end of the day, they're about to leave and go to another planet, and the guy's talking to the robot. He's like, hopefully one day tell your people we're sorry we killed, the guy, that we want to come back. And the robot's like, no, you don't understand. That thing was my slave. Like, I was trying to rebuild my slave.
You see what this social media has done to you? You don't have
cable. That's
an
old story. That's an old story written in like the 50s.
Right, but you know all about it. And how do you know about it?
Google.
Google.
I just Googled it.
Oh.
Google
who puts in front of your face what it wants.
I had to search it out.
It puts in front of, if you want to take that up with Dr. Epstein, you're fucked.
I found it on a rogue website.
If you want to take that up with Dr. Epstein, you are in for a long day of getting fucked into the ground.
There's some truth in that. Algorithms run everything. But then as soon as and it is true, like anyone can be programmed.
Dr. Epstein, you got to talk to this kid.
Well, he was on the podcast. I listened to the podcast.
Obviously you didn't.
But I think people overestimate, I forget what the scientific term for luck is, but whatever that is, where random shit can happen.
Okay.
Right.
He's going to get me going on Hoffman. Okay.
On the grid.
What is interesting, though, is if you think of different political systems, if everything is an algorithm and you are completely controlled, what's the point of democracy, right? Like, so do you even live in a democracy if everything that I'm looking at and Googling is all catered to my interest, right?
You don't, it's all catered to your interest of what they want you to be interested in.
But
So
what if I start reading like physical books? Do they talk about that? Like, am I screwed there?
Well, you only find physical books that are on the shelves in front of you that they want
in a
to have
library,
in front of you.
yeah.
In a library, in a store.
So there's no undergrounds. There's no.
Okay, yeah, sure. Like a guy like you could go dig and dig and dig. Okay, but the average person isn't. They're going to search one time and that's
But if I dig and dig and dig, am I still just a product of the algorithm that knows I'm going to dig and dig? Like at one point, are you making an algorithm God and omnipotent, omnipresent, which I don't think they are. They could be, but I don't think they have the properties of God. So, at one point do you say, well, I have no control. So we're already a slave to the algorithm. So why even try anything?
Eventually, right? Without knowing, I think you will. And yeah, you can go through 80 pages and you'll find it, but the algorithm knows you're doing it. And then the algorithm will put something in front of you that will maybe make you think, So on page 80, you find the truth. But then something will come in front of you an hour later that's related to that makes you question what you just read on page 80 on purpose. So now you think what you had thought originally, but you have a little bit of doubt. And that's all you need. Just a little bit of doubt that maybe you're wrong. And that's what it does.
It makes me feel like AI is like the new Tower of Babel, where we're just trying to build God again, or with the hopes of reaching God. And so we give godlike properties and wants because we want to build God. We believe we can build God. And so when you describe it like everything's controlled by the algorithm, I think we always fail to see that unless you are God or you are some spiritual omnipotent being, you will have lacks. I mean, I forget what the comic is. I love the comic, but it's like man is just starting out, and then he builds computers, builds the atom bomb, builds AI.
Yeah.
Man perfects AI. AI perfects itself. AI enslaves man. Solar flare takes out AI, and we become sun worshipers again. And they believe that's why we worship the sun in the past, because AI already took over, and solar flare. But if a solar flare can take out AI, that tells me right there.
Intelligent thing that you said this whole conversation, in my opinion.
But if I already know that, that's why I'm like, we give godlike properties to AI. But if a solar flare can take out AI, it's not God, right? The sun's then God, right? AI is just some tool that is turning us into
the solar flare thing, I'm not agreeing to that, because the robot could develop how to
anti-solar flare.
Why couldn't it? If you can, like right now in Israel, they're stopping, a gazillion missiles a day.
Well, yeah, why?
Okay.
I mean, okay.
AI is doing that. Like a fucking missile that you shoot Then on the head, it has a target of where it's going to go, and it can move.
Yep.
And that AI, that thing can move any way it wants. It destroys it.
Yeah.
In 2023.
Yeah.
So just imagine.
Sure.
I think you should think about that twice.
Actually, what's funny is I knew about that, so I was like, I don't find that impressive because that's just like
You don't find that? Whoa.
just with like military stuff. I know that
This
sounds
politics
obnoxious
is
to
fucking
say.
you up, bro.
I know. Because they've had the Iron Dome now for
Years.
long time. Long time. I think humans just like to project, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't be fearful of certain things. But it's kind of like, even going back to Elon, the people in power, I think when you make something into a god, you make it stronger than it appears. And there's nothing wrong with foresight and planning and talking about certain things where you're like, this could be happen. I could be programmed by an algorithm, everything that I see, and those are good things to think about. But what I don't want to do is, like, it almost turns into nihilism, because then the natural conclusion is I have no control.
Well, that's what I think. See, I
Which
think
I don't believe. I don't believe I don't have.
But what happens when an AI takes over a society? Meaning, you see it now. You go to checkout at the grocery store. It's self-checkout, right? So those jobs, they don't pay much, but those are jobs that are eliminated now, and rightfully for some people, because they bitch and complain about their job every day and they don't do their job. But you go to fast food. You're seeing it. I forget where it was. There's a McDonald's or a Taco Bell that is there's one person that works there, and it's all robots.
Yeah.
What happens to a society? What do we do with those? And I hate to say it like this, those people. But what happens to those people that were working those jobs? You can't just kill them. What happens to that mass society that will eventually lose their jobs?
I can tell you what Elon Musk believes. Elon Musk and a lot of those tech enthusiasts believes, I would call it hyper meritocracy, and that's why they believe in universal basic income. They believe, and you can believe this if you want to, I don't necessarily think it's true, they believe 1% of the population is useful. And that 1% innovates, drives growth, does everything that's important, and they're the ones who are making the machines, making the AI. The other 99% are pretty useless. We're all cattle. But because we love the 99%, what we need to do is we need to take that 1% who are extremely successful and let them continue to innovate. We need
kill
to
the rest of everybody.
Well, they don't say that, but they say we need a universal basic income for the 99% to keep them happy so that they can be free and pursue their pleasures.
And die off.
Right. Wear a headset. And a lot of people at the top believe that. And that's why they believe...
I'm with the guys at the top. I believe that.
That's why they believe a lot of what they're doing is justified, because they are helping you. They're helping a 99%er who can't do anything, who isn't useful except being a cog in the machine. And so why not eat the bugs, right? The bugs will help you live longer. You don't want to be roaming free. You need to be in a pod because you're not going to be useful otherwise.
Right.
And it's funny because that is a very, in a sense, it's a very capitalistic thing to think as well. People think, oh, capitalism good, but capitalism just cares about efficiency and nothing else.
100,000 million% think that that's what will happen within 10, 15 years maximum.
The hard part is when politics gets into play, like even with the AI conversation, and you can even look at it like nuclear war, like the nuclear war conversation. Once we get nukes, is everyone going to start nuking each other? So far, that hasn't happened. It definitely could happen, right? But that hasn't happened. Why? Like Pakistan and India hate each other. They would love to nuke each other, but they haven't. So will the whole world become a nightmare, or will just America become a nightmare?
They hate each other?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
India, Pakistan.
Why do they hate each other?
India, Pakistan?
Yeah. Like the
serious?
yeah, like the quick answer.
Oh, they were all a part of India when the British owned it, and then Pakistan is all Muslim. India is mostly Hindu. So kind of religious, ethnic reasons.
Oh, I didn't know.
So they
that.
broke up,
Wow.
and that's a lot of strife. And so
They should just have one religion. We always say that. There should just be one religion.
That's what Klaus Schwab says.
Because then there's no, like, think of all these wars. And this shit's all over religion.
I'm okay with multiple religions. I'm not a one religion guy.
Are you part of the military-industrial complex?
Military, and that's another thing.
We should talk about tell everybody what you do.
I do political and strategic consulting, and I got started running my association, which was one of the first state associations to focus on blockchain and crypto tech. I appreciate that. Thank you. And so we've passed 5 bills in the state of Florida. The most recent bill, which got famous, was the anti-central bank digital currency bill. I have 4 bills up in the legislature this year.
Wow.
And so now I rode that niche. Like that's
How
what
old
I
are you?
27.
Yeah.
27, you're doing it. So basically, you're writing bills for the big guys to sign it and say that they wrote it.
I passed
Don't
my
answer
first, I passed my first bill when I was 21.
That is unbelievable.
It's very, and man, I feel so old now saying I'm 27. And when I turned 18, I was like, it's all over.
Congratulations, man.
But now that I've done that for 5 years, I'm now transitioning and realize like what I did for the state of Florida, I can do for other countries, I can do for other states, I can do for companies. So now I'm transitioning into more political and strategic consulting and helping out different companies, essentially being like, okay, you need to put this here and this here. I have a lot of people come to me and say, how do I become politically influential? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, I don't know where to start. And so I'm like, okay, what's your business? Where do you live? I'm going to start developing a campaign for you of who to donate to, what events to go to. Do you want to be influential or do you want to run for office? Let's start building that track record, right? And so I can get people involved because a lot of them, I talk to people who are nervous to email their state representative. Like, oh, I can just email and ask for a meeting? I'm like, yes, you have that right. You voted for the guy or girl. You know what I mean? And so a lot of it is just like the separation between your average American now and the political system is crazy. Even with how contentious things are, your average person still doesn't believe that they can just call up some city council member and like talk. Like there's such a huge divide. So a lot of what I do now is just educating people on that and saying, okay, what do you want your organization to do? I can help you get there. And I'll help you play the political game.
And like when you're working with DeSantis or doing stuff or yelling at the guy in court, what all that stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing in that aspect?
Really depends on the purpose. So like, and it gets complicated because I try to maintain relationships on all sides, right? And obviously when you have people running for president, things become complicated. But my goal is always, like specifically with my association, I want to support the companies, and that's my number one goal and job. And so whatever I have to do that, I'll do. If that means I talk to DeSantis mostly and his staffers, or I talk to his campaign, that's what I'll do. If I need to talk to people on the Trump side, or if I need to talk to people on the Democratic side, I'll do that because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? So it doesn't matter what my own personal politics are. My job is to protect these companies and make sure stuff gets done. And I do that all the time. I mean, even today I was on phone calls because they're currently trying to pass regulations around like Bitcoin kiosks, which you find at gas stations. And I'm trying to say, what's the problem? Why do you think there's a problem? And let's solve this. A lot of it is honestly just marketing. I'm essentially just a marketer. I'm a business, B2G. You have B2C, B2B. I'm B2G. I'm business to government.
But politically. But
Politically,
it's all political.
It's
shit.
kind of,
putting
it's all
out fires, shit like that.
Yes, but it's all the same. A marketer's put out fires when your
Yeah.
brand does something stupid.
You're just in politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a strategic marketer. And I tell people to view politicians as products because they are. So,
Political strategic marketer.
yeah. Which
That's
is
your new
what
job
they,
title.
I guess so.
CEO.
Like I'll tell people in their locale, you need to go to this fundraiser. And they're like, why? I don't even like the guy. Because every large company in that district is giving him money. They're going to be there. So if you want to expand your network and not even get political, go to the fundraiser, right? It's a ticket into a selective group of people. People don't think like that. So I'm like, you want to raise money? You want to get in contact? I mean, think of your district. If you're in a district that has medical, military, what else? I already said medical. I want to say healthcare, but manufacturing, and your business is linked to any 3 of those fields. I'm like, okay, we're going to go to a political fundraiser. Why? Because those top companies like the Lockheed Martin are going to have a guy there, and then you can connect with him. And the government affairs people normally report to the C-suite in a lot of ways. So now you just fast-tracked your way to getting connections that you would have never had before just by attending a fundraiser.
But like a Lockheed Martin, you go to that, now you're stuck being told what to do by like the...
It depends what your goal is.
It really does vary.
Yeah. And even with politicians, you have politicians who are owned and then some of them become the owner, and it all depends on the district. If you're in a solid red or blue district, you're kind of the owner, especially if you're popular. and you have a lot of sway. The Matt Gaetzes of the world, the AOCs of the world, they're pretty safe, and that's why they're able to do whatever they want.
Matt Gaetz is interesting. I watched an American Greed on him. I forget what it was about, but it was a whole thing. Do you know what I'm referring to?
No, I know Matt Gaetz, but I don't know the American Greed episode.
Keep on.
I said I don't watch TV.
Yeah, I forgot.
If it was an anime,
I asked him. I said, "Did you ever see Black Mass?" Never saw it.
What is it?
Black Mass with Johnny Depp, Whitey Bulger.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ask him a movie. Ask him like a.
I'm a movie illiterate.
Oh God. Boy, you put me on the spot.
There's got to be some '90s movie. If anytime it's a '90s movie, unless it has Adam Sandler in it,
Did you see the
I haven't seen
last Mission Impossible?
it. No, I haven't seen any Mission Impossible.
But just the point being,
I haven't seen
the,
single
the
Mission
original
Impossible.
Willy Wonka.
I have seen that. Classic.
But when I was
Good
asking,
try. That's your guess.
like his generation, they don't. It's all social media, no cable, no nothing.
Well,
right?
I've got.
So you want to know how you're gonna be so depressed? You're never gonna forgive me, Tommy. You know how I watch movies?
How?
On TikTok, what they do now is they hook you with like a 5-minute clip of a movie.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, ooh, this is cool. And then I go to the page where it has the next consecutive 5-minute clip.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll watch half a movie through TikTok 5-minute clips.
The whole thing with TikTok, I don't think it's any different than any other social media platform. I think, because I looked at some of the source code, and I think it's just because it's China. But to me, it doesn't look much different than anything else.
No, they're the one who invented doom scrolling and the forever feed. That was their invention, which now Facebook has, Instagram has, Twitter has, every single.
Oh yeah.
I used to be very anti TikTok because of the Chinese propaganda, but then I realized that TikTok might be, even if it's Chinese propaganda, it's the only differentiator among other American social media, except now Twitter, but it's still American, right? So if you want effective outside news, obviously if you talk about certain things on TikTok, you get banned, whatever. But it's like wading through a minefield. Okay, this topic I can't discuss on YouTube. This one I can't discuss on Twitter.
Yeah.
This one I can't discuss on TikTok.
So TikTok does have censors. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't mess with it. Real at first, I was sold on that Chinese bullshit until I looked, and now I just can't stand even going on because every time I go on, it's somebody yelling. I got a fucking cat.
Depends
what
the trend is.
I don't know, like a guy barking like a dog. Like,
Well, I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they live on their computers. I mean, they're active. They play sports, but they're on the computer and they're just watching YouTube.
Yeah.
And like my younger son will be like, "Oh, Dad, this whatever, I can't remember the guy's name, something Levine or something like that." He's like, he's a YouTube star. I have no idea who the fuck this guy is. It's like we used to know movie stars. There's no movie stars anymore. It's YouTube stars and Instagram stars that actually become movie stars because they're big on these platforms. Correct. And then they get hired in movies now because they're big amongst the kids, which is crazy.
And then we still don't watch the movie.
Right.
Because movies suck.
Right.
and he had brought, when I was with him earlier, you were telling me about Twitch.
Yeah.
I thought Twitch was just something to make money.
No.
But this is something that like you and others just watch people play.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You have your face, and I like it as background noise.
Right.
And what's funny actually is if I'm like busy working and I can't join my buddies, they'll Twitch their game so that like I can be a part of it while I'm still working.
And you're just watching somebody else
in the
play
background, or especially if it's a buddy of mine. Yeah. So they're all beating each other up on some new game that we've all been playing. The game's actually called Lethal Company. It's super duper fun because it has what's called proximity chat. So in the game, you have to use the game's chat mode, and the farther you are from someone in the game, the less you can hear them. And it's a horror game, so there's monsters trying to chase you, and so you literally just see, you don't hear anything, and then you see your buddy run across, like he's just screaming, and you're like, okay, time to get out. Lethal Company.
I want to ask my son that one.
The basis of the game is a company is paying you to collect trash, and if you don't collect enough of it, they kill you. But the places they send you to collect trash, it was created by a single guy, and who it exploded because it's a very memeable game, and you can just get your buddies and play for like 30 minutes. And so that's what we'll do. They'll be like, hey, Sam, we're going to hop on. I'm like, all right, it's 7:30. I don't go to bed for another hour. And be like, okay, you hop on and you get on. And it's scary because you're
I
like
would
running
be,
from creatures that just randomly come up, but you're with your
to
friend.
run from that because I would end up playing that forever.
I think the only thing
It's
that
$10.
people watch anymore, literally, is probably sports, right? Is football, is basketball. I know some people don't like football, maybe they like basketball, or basketball they don't like football, but sports seems to be the only thing that people really will watch. Like Super Bowl, I mean, are you
I
going to
don't
be
watch
on
sports.
Are you going to be on Twitch, or are you going to be watching the Super Bowl?
Twitch.
I mean,
now your
what?
generation
What?
now, is like, would you say
But that's me. They're
Right.
what percentage of your generation are going to watch the Super Bowl, or are they going to be on Twitch or social media or something else? What would you say?
They might be on it and have it.
I mean, listen, if we're honest, the reason the most people watch the Super Bowl is it's just a gathering event. How many people are watching the Super Bowl on their phones or talking to somebody and not actually paying attention?
Right.
How many people only watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show? Right. So the sports in general viewership, I think, is in the decline. Why do you think Taylor Swift is dating whatever his name is from the team?
Yep.
They're trying to bring in viewers.
You think
that's all
that's a
planned.
setup?
Oh, it's so easily a setup.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
So my generation doesn't care. I mean, listen, some of my generation cares about sports, but it is a strategic problem. And that's why, Mr. Beast, he just did a video where his highest paying job was he was with the Buccaneers. And that's because he knows Tom Brady and stuff. Do anyone my age know about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I do. I lived in Tampa, but your average person doesn't care. But now it's like, oh, Mr. Beast was at a football game. Maybe I should get more involved, or what's that cool stuff? So they're definitely trying to appeal to my generation. But yeah, the majority, I don't think, find sports entertaining like a lot of people do. To me, sports is something you have to be grown up in to have nostalgia for.
Right.
I remember my dad always taking me to the game, watching the game with my dad. That's why I like watching baseball. But, my dad didn't do any of that stuff with me. We didn't watch a lot of TV. We would go in the backyard and play games, and that was fine. So it's not like my dad was a bad dad. We just didn't do that. And so I don't have any attachment to it like some of these people do. So to me, do you really like sports, or is it an industry of nostalgia for some people?
But do you think so on that topic right there? So, I'm not saying every family or every kid or everyone's like this, but kids now are on their phones or they're on that gaming system, and they're on it for God knows till the sun goes down, till the sun comes back up. Parents are in the other room. They're on their cell phones. They're doing whatever. There's a separation between the child and the family.
Yeah.
Do you think that also in between your generation and younger than that is tearing the family structure apart, and in some of the issues that we're seeing now with broken families, all the craziness we're seeing going on in the world because of this divide?
Technology just amplifies things. And so one of the photos I love is on a subway in the 1920s, everyone has a newspaper in front of their face and no one's talking to each other. And so people go, oh man, you're looking on your phone. If people don't want to talk, they will find an excuse to not talk. And that's a cultural thing, and it comes in waves and cycles. And the phone is just a recent addition of that. What's interesting about phone and social media is interests are different now. And I think people are craving community, but what they're around is not community. So we stopped talking to our neighbors before phones came around, before Facebook was around. People stopped talking to their neighbors, right?
Going
so that
to get
trend
a
already
loaf of
died.
bread, borrowing milk, right?
That died before technology really played a big part, right? When you had suburban moms all getting together, that doesn't happen anymore. That died before, the cell phone came about. So now, especially one thing I tell people about like kids in video games that they need to understand is like, especially guys, where can guys go and be stupid now? Right? Like when you were growing up, you probably have some memory, me and the boys getting together, doing stupid stuff. Some of you get in trouble, and your moms are like, just be home by 5 or be home before dark. And you get in trouble or whatever, but you have a lot of good memory with your guy friends.
We had the strip. Did you have the strip? We had the strip. So yeah, if you had a cool car, you would go race on the strip.
Right.
And the cops would kind of look the other way because you're just fucking around, or you'd make your exhaust loud. That's what we used to do. Now, shit.
Well, so people go.
Bullying if it was too loud.
Yes, but so to that example, people say, man, I wish these kids would go out now. They're on their video games. Well, we can't do the strip because the nanny state has decided we're not allowed to. And so where do you find an outlet to be just as stupid as you were at the strip? It's in the video game chat lobby. It's doing stuff that I just described with your buddies because there isn't necessarily that outlet anymore. And if you don't have community, like it's a way to, one, you can also keep in touch with your boys in perpetuity, right? Because we don't have to be in the same place. So I can get together for 2 hours every Saturday, meet all my high school buddies, jam out, have a great time. And sometimes that's more fun than going to a bar, right? Because the whole market for social interaction among men and women, among the sexes, women and women, men and men, is different. And that's just a product of how society's changed.
You know, like society has changed, right? It didn't hit Rob and I, it hit your generation. But we know that the digital camera has been around since the 60s, okay? So do you think they had it, but it just wasn't quite perfected or it wasn't the time? And then they released it at the right time, where there was no choice because you can't go on the strip. You can't go play until the street lights are off. So now it's not necessarily like your generation. It's that you don't have the options that we had purposely by the agenda, set up way before, so that you don't have that option to go play in the street, to go play football at the neighbor's backyard. Now you can't do any of that, so you got to stay in the house, on the computer, on the iPad, on whatever, feeding in all that shit that they want to go into your brain and keep clicking and clicking and clicking.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings up a point that has stuck with me from the book, The Fourth Turning, which talks about just generations. One of the reasons I love that book is every page is a reference to something. So you could just spend hours trying to dig into the references. One of the things he argues is that generations control technology, not the inverse. So a lot of the times people say the hippies in the 60s were created because of birth control, and the sexual revolution started because you could have sex without consequence now because of birth control. What they argue is that actually birth control had been around for a while, but you didn't have a generation that was seeking out what the baby boomers were seeking out. So it wasn't the right fit for the right time. And so when you have the right fit for the right time, so social media was technically around before. Why was MySpace a failure and Facebook a success? Because MySpace was too early. That generation just didn't take to it.
I loved
But then you had...
I loved it.
Because it's very personal, right? You had your 20 best friends or whatever.
You
and
music, playing your own music, remember?
Visiting your profile, personalized.
The girls I got with that, oh my goodness.
That's interesting.
But
What
that,
girls
but that would be like
MySpace?
Tinder now, I guess.
No, Tinder, I failed at all these new ones, but MySpace.
See, but you're 27, you said, right?
Yeah,
So
old.
I'm 38.
Wow, foot in the grave.
But I'm
I got
in that
foot in the
weird, like, I feel like I'm in this weird universe where
I'm still a cool kid, I promise.
Because I've got the people older than me, and I'm here, and then there's you guys, I call it, right? And I know technology. I can use technology, but then there's so much stuff that goes over my head, and I'm thinking about the people just a couple of years older than me. I'm like, wow, they're fucked if it's going over my head.
Yeah.
But I'm in like this weird like warp zone because some of the stuff I'm just like, get off the fucking computer, get off your phone, go outside and fucking play. Like go in the backyard, go jump in the pool, go do this, go do that. And I don't understand that world as much. I do and I don't because I got my kids, but I'm like, God damn it, you kids in this shit. And then my son, the other day, he's on the computer, and he amazed me with the shit he's telling me. Like, it's like, not that he's a professional hacker, but to some of the stuff he's doing, I'm like, you better watch yourself. I don't need the feds here.
I mean, they banned a high schooler from hacking into his high school.
Right.
Like, seriously, he's like banned from the internet for 10 or 15 years. There's some story in the media there, and that was a while ago.
But see, they do that because they don't go out. They don't have that option to go on the strip. That's why I think it's like that. And then you have parents now that what's the easy to do? You have an iPad now. You have an iPhone. You didn't have that before.
And that's the real problem. Go ahead.
No, it just goes back to the point where, and I know what you're saying too, and I get it, but I'm like at the same time, like I can probably Google it right now, but I don't know. But the obesity rate has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
The mental health that we see is just ridiculous now.
Divorce.
Like
like a father in the home.
There's a reason for it.
But none of it you can blame on my generation.
No, I'm not saying blaming your generation.
Because the one thing I always tell people too, especially like old people, whatever old means,
right,
is I'm like, who parented these kids?
Agreed.
right? And so anytime someone older says, man, things have changed. Yeah, who let them change?
Right. No, you're right.
Right?
100%.
Because we were born into this world, and you're like back to the phones. I see it all the time where parents don't want to parent, don't want to deal with their kid. Here's a screen.
Now, how old? Here's another question. How old are your parents?
My parents are both baby boomers. My dad's actually pretty old because I'm one of 6,
Okay.
and I'm the second youngest. Man, I'm terrible. My dad's getting old. He's like maybe 65. My mom's, I think, 60 now.
So, and I always relate that to things too, because I'm a young dad. I was 21 when I had my son. 38 now. He's going to be 17. My dad is going to be 84 this year.
Wow.
And I'm 38, so he was near his 50s. So I was raised
You had an old dad.
old school, right?
Yeah.
That mentality.
Yeah,
So I think that's the way I my values, because how I was raised. Now, if my dad was maybe 30 when he had me, maybe it would have been a different, the way I was brought up. Even my friends, all my close friends, their parents aren't as old as my dad, but they're in their 70s now. So, yeah, it's interesting. But, yeah, I mean.
my mom passed mid-70s, and my dad approaching 70 right now. So, I mean, they're older as well. And I was like that, but a little bit more. I got a couple years on you. And it's I was still borrowing bread and everything like that with the car phone. It was when the BlackBerry, no, the Sidekick. When that fucking Sidekick came out, I don't know, you might be too young for
I like
that.
the Nextel.
And the Nextel. Yeah,
Beep,
the flip phone.
beep,
Were you around for that? There used to be this Nextel phone where you
the
could
best
walkie-talkie.
ever.
He could be in Philly. I could be here.
You
and
the
I-
walkie-talkie?
Oh,
yeah, and
fuck
you would.
yeah.
I was the best.
I
And
still love walkie-talkie.
pull up that Nextel phone. I almost bought one the other day just because it's cool as fuck. But you have to have 2 people with it. So you hit the button.
We should get walkie-talkie.
Let's get one. I'll get them.
Like just interstate, because there's
No,
gonna be a
it's
walkie-talkie
badass.
that could be like,
No, it's badass. You hit the button and you go, "Yo, Sam, what's going on?" And you could be anywhere. And you, "What's up, brother? Well, you know, what
That's
are you
the
doing?"
dream. That's-
You hit Rob, right? Rob, that thing was the shit.
watch that stuff come back. I mean, seriously, watch it come back.
Will they come back with the Razor and
Yeah,
flip
yeah, yeah.
phone?
Everything trends. Among my generation, short shorts are back, 5-inch inseam, rollerblading's coming back. If you look at the fashion and the style, a lot of the music I listen to is called neo funk. So they are taking Japanese 70s pop and bringing in and editing that. So stuff cycles.
What's with the Japanese? You got the Japanese with the anime.
It's popular with
this.
my generation.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's some kind of cultural exchange going on there, but it's just cool. I think for a lot of, once again, we're not consuming American media.
Well, and
The
think-
American media that's
Yeah.
being consumed is like the Kardashians.
Yeah.
So if you want something that's not the Kardashians, you're not staying in America.
You want to hear a funny story about that? While he finds that phone.
Oh, geez.
So Steve is this rock and roll guru. I mean, he made you name him, he made them. Genesis, Rob, who else? I mean,
I don't even know who that is.
Journey, people you don't know, but also works with Snoop Dogg, Suge Knight. I mean, he's up there, and he switched to this whole entire. He left it to explain what the Bible is, right? But when he had done it, that's how they all communicated. When the Nextel came out with the walkie-talkie, because he was dealing with people in other countries.
Yeah.
So if the
You
Rolling
can do Nextel across
yeah,
the
so if the
country?
Rolling
Oh, yeah.
Stones were touring in Scotland, he could walkie-talk them, and they'd have to answer because it keeps beeping, and he's screaming through it.
It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope this is the right video. This looks like.
The pros turn to Nextel Direct Connect. First responders,
Yeah, that's it.
healthcare professionals,
This is
business,
shit.
field services, transportation, construction, families,
Look at that
friends, and
phone.
Yep, it's bad.
communicate in an instant to one person.
That's what
or
it
your
was. That's
entire
what you
What
heard.
year was
It
this?
with just the push of a button. Locate,
Uh,
navigate, track, and manage.
Early 2000s?
Connect with up to 20 people at once.
I had one in
90,
Voice
late
messages by
90s,
email.
early 2000s.
Send
03.
pictures and
Yeah,
contact information.
they're cool,
while
man.
on a
But you would
call.
hear that beep,
All on
that
the
what that
fastest
was, and it'd be
national
like, so
push-to-talk
you'd be talking like that noise.
Part of the cool club.
But
and that
yeah,
beep.
you had no choice but to answer.
You
that,
had
'cause
to.
It was just
You had
beep
to.
and beep and beep.
So that's why they went out of business. It got annoying.
Probably.
I don't think so. I think it's just the Sidekick came where you had a keyboard and then
Razor.
I mean, voicemail is pretty useful.
yeah.
You know, like,
Well, no, that had voicemail too. You can make calls,
okay.
but it was still, the number phone.
Speaking of voicemail, today I was on my iPhone. I don't know if you knew this. Maybe I'm well behind here, but my dad called and I didn't answer it. I was doing something, so I was gonna call him right back. So he left a message, and for some reason on my phone, it was coming as he was actually leaving the message. The words were coming up as he was talking.
That's a new update.
And then I hit the button,
and it answered.
it was him.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool.
No, that's the newest update. That's
Yeah.
only happened to me once when I was calling someone leaving a message and then they answered. And I was like, oh, hey, Will.
Speaking of which, just out of curiosity, because I drilled you with NFTs and everything else in Web3, I know Apple is just Apple, and they got that ecosystem on lock, but they don't change anything, ever.
Yeah, they don't need to. Yeah.
What do you think anyone will take them down?
Someday.
I
But
think so.
Elon? I had heard Elon was thinking about a phone.
the closest
It'd be a good
the
move.
closest person would be Google. And if Google can't do it, Steve Jobs was right in that he's selling art. And that's what he's selling. The iPhone is art, not tech, right? And I think that's still what attracts people. And the problem is, since he's been gone, there hasn't been much to iterate, and that legacy has to die eventually. But it's like a Tesla. Are there better electric cars? Yeah, I think so now. But you want the name. You want to say, I drive a Tesla. And that's hard to get rid of. That's hard. You could have inferior tech. You got that brand. That's hard to get rid of.
The Nextel messed me up, but when I was talking about Steve's a very interesting person. And what he had done was he had gone and talked to Snoop, and he had talked to Suge, right? He told Suge, get rid of all your phones and you'll be fine. And he wouldn't get rid of the phones, so he left, right? And Suge had a Nextel phone, that Nextel phone in 2020. Yeah, he had the Nextel. He thought he couldn't get, they couldn't tap it, but they tapped the whole thing.
And Suge is who?
Suge Knight, Death Row Records.
Please tell me you know who Suge Knight is.
He doesn't.
Oh, God.
Tupac.
Do you know who Tupac
Tupac's
is?
partner, only because he's dead.
Okay, so
Biggie
Biggie
Smalls?
Smalls?
All right.
Only because call me Big Papa. That's
Yeah. Okay, well, those two guys are dead.
yeah.
Okay.
Biggie
And-
Smalls is dead,
yeah, he's dead. Yeah.
Damn.
And yeah, Suge Knight is a crazy guy.
and he's alive.
He's in jail only a fucking ton of time.
Oh, okay, because he killed him.
No, he
Is that the most recent thing when they were like, we found Tupac's killer?
They did get him, yeah.
yeah.
that
Was that with Suge
That's not
Knight?
Suge,
Recent? No, that's something different.
No, we had Greg Kading back in, and it was just somebody that was in the car that's still alive that fucked up.
Most people, my generation, are better knowing celebrity stuff. So part of that is just me just being stupid.
Here's an
I don't know
interesting.
celebrity
Sorry,
stuff well.
we're going, but what's
Go
this
on.
topic? So you don't know who Suge Knight is, which I'm like, man, how the fuck do you know who Suge Knight is? But you know who Snoop Dogg is.
Yeah.
So there's some of those guys, like I always say this to my
Snoop
son.
Dogg's an icon.
Because
He's
when
on
my
TV.
son, when I talk
Evolved.
about people, yeah, he evolved, but he stayed relevant over the years. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So,
Suge Knight's not with
yeah.
Martha Stewart,
right.
you
Yeah.
know, doing funny commercials.
No, you're right though. So like Snoop evolved. He
Right.
went with the flow. So if he had to go with Martha Stewart, he did it. If he had to go a little bit poppy, he went poppy.
Like we say, Phil Collins.
Yeah.
You know who Phil Collins is?
No, I do, but what's the famous movie? I want to say Avatar, but that's not it. What's the cartoon?
In tonight. This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right, they are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shave your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to Manscaped.com and using code MSCS Media for 20% off and free shipping. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all the stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a monster of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. No more messing around in drawers, this color one, that color one, all with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. First, there's the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember your hair is different. Next, Manscaped's beard oil. Cap it off with beard balm. The Pro Kit also comes with 3 different gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MSCS Media at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code MSCS Media.
What's the
How's that go,
freaking
Rob?
Disney cartoon he wrote for? About the guy in the jungle.
Oh, Tarzan.
Tarzan. Yeah, he wrote the Tarzan soundtrack,
Okay, so you
right?
know
Yeah,
that.
Steve
Yes.
produced that.
Okay. That's
Steve
all I know.
produced that.
That's all I know.
And you know Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, of course.
So okay, there's
Because they're still in movies, the Expendables and stuff. Like they're still in movies.
that's
Well, at least he knows that, right?
There's certain icons that are like part of what I think is like American culture. I don't think Suge Knight made that list, but I think Snoop Dogg did.
Now, in your political realm, all these people running, right? We were talking earlier.
Yeah.
You know, you think right now they're all just running for vice president on the Republican side? Do you think any of them really think they have a shot, other than probably Nikki Haley and?
Yeah, everything's about.
You don't
leverage.
think Vivek thinks he has a shot?
I think so part of being a candidate, you convince yourself you have a shot, even if you know you don't, because that's the only way you're going to play the game and play it well. And as soon as you're not playing like you have a shot, you're not going to be the best that you can be. So someone like Vivek, you can alter your mind and say, oh, I have a shot. But I think deep down, he's got other goals that he's perfectly fine with. Before this, I didn't know who Vivek was. No clue. Right? 1, he's a nobody. 2, zero leverage. Don't even know if he's a Republican, whatever. Now look at the dude. Main stage, great talker on every podcast. That guy is building a political empire right now. It doesn't matter if he loses. He won because the worst case that happens is, Biden stays in office. He's now going to be talking on Fox News. Maybe he runs for Senate in Ohio. Maybe he moves to Florida and runs for governor. The whole nation knows who he is. What better thing than that? And no one really dislikes him. Like Democrats, of course, might, but no Republican is like, man, I hate Vivek. Even like the Nikki Haley people, they don't have an ire for him like they do for someone like Donald Trump, right? So I think someone like him goes in knowing, well, how can I be most useful if I know I'm not going to win the primary? Vivek is probably Trump's favorite, in my opinion. He has never, to my knowledge, down-talked Trump. He said, I actually want to be more extreme. That's his criticism. But he is very fair, and he's kind of the Trump guy on stage, which means, what does Trump appreciate more than anything else in the world? It's just loyalty. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're loyal to Trump, he respects that. So he knows, even if he loses, and even if Trump loses, he said, if Trump wins, I think he's going to get a cabinet position. He's certainly going to get whatever he wants. Maybe that's, hey, Trump, I want your endorsement to run in whatever state that I'm going to be based out of. So he's setting up a political career, political capital. He's so well-spoken. He could run a media company. Tucker Carlson just launched his network. Maybe Vivek has his own show. You know what I mean? So he's gained an audience that he's never had before in a data set. Now, but he's new. He's new. Chris Christie, this only hurts. He looks stupid. He's an idiot.
Is that just for money? To put money in his bank account from donors?
It's money laundering.
Money laundry?
Yeah. So there was a report on Tim Scott when he dropped out, and all of Tim Scott's donor donations went to consultants that he was already working with.
Jesus Christ.
So it's just and what you do is you run a campaign to build for the next cycle, right? So all that money could go for when Tim Scott reruns for Senate. Maybe he wants to do something bigger. So if you're smart, you know when you're going to lose. You take the money.
And if you're smart, you play like a really nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nikki Haley, that's just an establishment.
What's up with that? What's up with her?
Just money, once again, funding her war chest, Now,
like when somebody gives her tons of money, right? Mm-hmm. For the military-industrial complex, we know that's what it is. And she takes it.
Yeah.
Now, do they actually think that she's going to win?
Some of them do.
Really?
And then there's always going to be a small faction of true believers, which you need, and that's fine, that believe she's going to win. They lay out the strategy, and you have to be a true believer sometimes to even want to do this, right? Sometimes it's about the money, but there's so much money flowing around, you could find more useful things. So there are people who love Nikki Haley to death, and it might have nothing to do with her political ideology. Nikki Haley got this hospital funding, which cured my mom's cancer. And so I owe my mom's life to Nikki Haley. Like, you develop a small fan base. She was governor of South Carolina. She's going to have her groupies. It's like pop stars. So you then use that to then gain an advantage. And so I think Nikki Haley's strategy is much like Elizabeth Warren's strategy in 2020. Warren could have won, but I think she knew at some point she wasn't going to win. So she stayed in, so Bernie couldn't win. And now Biden owes her a lot of favors, right? So Elizabeth Warren has been able to work with the Biden administration. A lot of her former staffers moved from her office to the Biden administration. That's when running for office plays off. So one of the best ways you can gain political power is during an election cycle. And that doesn't mean you have to win. That just means you have to play it smart. And that's why some of these people do this. It's about gaining leverage. It's about filling your war chest and gaining cash. As long as you know when to get in and when to get out, if you know you're not going to win.
Now, if Trump won, do you think he would put Nikki Haley anywhere?
I hope not. I don't think so, because she's been so anti-Trump. I don't think he would. And I think there would be such an uproar from his base who hates her. People like Nikki Haley are so funny to me because I don't know Democrats or Republicans who like her. It's really just a small sliver of just people who love using drones on other nations. Those are the people who love. And there are some of those are Democrats, some of those are Republicans. But it's just a pure military funding complex. But you have to understand, when Nikki Haley gets PAC money, that PAC money has to get spent. Who does it get spent to?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if there's certain write-offs, why not donate to a PAC so that money can go somewhere else that I can't traditionally get to it without looking suspicious?
See, we talked about it. We had Vivek on, and I like him. I think he's well-spoken.
Yeah.
I think he's very smart. But I told Tommy, we talked about this the other day, I said, in my opinion, what I've noticed from him, very smart, good talker. He came off that way when he started. Now he's more on the attack mode. Like, more of like, to me, he's almost trying to fit in. He knows he's not going to win, but he's pleasing Trump, and he's hoping for that, either that cabinet position, like you said, or maybe that vice president, if that's what he decides.
I don't think he'll ever be vice president, but I think he's adaptable.
Right.
And he knows what works. And so I think if he came out attacking at the first debate, which he was a little aggressive, but I just don't think it was the time. It was too crowded.
Right.
But when it's really just 4 people on stage,
Now he can be more.
now you have more eye time, you have more talk time. So I think that's kind of why, and I think you see that in presidential debates. You notice they get more aggressive as time goes on, because the more aggressive you are, the more something could go wrong, especially if someone has a witty comeback. So you just want to look good, be impressive, say the right points, and then hope your poll numbers go up.
And do you think if right now as it stands, the nominee will be Donald Trump? And on the Democratic side, as we've talked about before, I cannot see a world where Joe Biden runs again. And I think as of now, the establishment that is behind Joe Biden or whoever's with Joe Biden has realized this has been a complete failure. And I know that they are controlling the strings, but now the Hunter stuff is now coming out. And now it is becoming an issue. And eventually I think Joe's going to say, I'm not feeling well, so too tired, whatever it is. And either Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama's name gets thrown in there. What do you think about that?
Speaking of Marvel, when you were like, Biden doesn't feel so good, I thought of, I haven't seen the movie, but I know when Spider-Man dies. It's like, Doc, I don't feel so good. And then he just disintegrates. Right. I just imagine that happened to Biden.
Pretty close,
might.
unfortunately.
I don't feel so good. The one thing that people, in this plays, I already said about Elon, the one thing that people always forget is you might have the same incentives, but all these people at the top want more power. and they will step on whoever their friendliest ally is to get it. We always assume that someone like Kamala Harris is just going to step back and not go for it. And the example I give people was the New York governor, Cuomo. He steps down. Hochul was not supposed to win. And the agreement they had with her, for whatever reason they took down Cuomo, you're going to come in for a year, whatever, we're going to have these elections, but it's this progressive lady far left of you who's supposed to win. That's where all the donors were.
Jesus.
Hochul didn't pull out, and she won. And now she's the governor of New York. People always assume that people are happy to go along with whatever the game plan is. And that's where, evil people fail, whatever that means, right? Is that they want to be the guy on top. Everyone wants to be the dictator. And you see that so many times throughout history. Look at, the Russian Revolution. Stalin had a whole team of people with Lenin that overthrew that system. And then as soon as it was overthrown, they murdered each other immediately because they all want to be at the top. Politics here is no different. So whoever controls Biden, if I was in their shoes, why do you want someone who's an independent thinker to be there? You're going to lose your control. So whoever that faction is that is telling Biden exactly what to do and has all that power, they don't care if he's a zombie who has to run from the basement. They want him there because they know if there's an independent thinker like a Gavin Newsom's bringing uplifting his own power players. He's bringing in his own people, and whoever has influence now, maybe half of them go, and some of them are still there.
Right. And Newsom,
it's going to be different.
And Newsom's a very confident guy.
A great speaker.
Great
looking, great speaker, picturesque.
Yeah.
Although I do think DeSantis killed him in that debate and did very well.
Yeah, he did.
What's funny, though, is if you notice, the debate was a win for both sides because they both were in their own silos promoting their own talking points among their own crowd. But it didn't really spread beyond their silos.
But the problem with that is, like DeSantis, you're going to a debate against the guy who's not running for president.
And that's
you
one of the things.
You kind of look
Gavin
like an
Newsom,
asshole.
So I think, whether I believe that or not, I think Newsom, marketing-wise, did an excellent job from the beginning saying...
No, I think Newsom played his cards.
Correct. But DeSantis did make him look stupid. And so for DeSantis people who want the hype and the energy, they loved it, right? And I think DeSantis needed something to make him stand out and appear as a win, which I think it was a win for his team. Morale matters, especially on a campaign. I think it was a morale boost.
Presidential-ish.
I
don't think like Vivek would ever do that because there would be no point to it.
But Vivek's also never run a state. Right. So there was an interesting dynamic that you did have two futures of America, Florida and California.
That's a good point.
Like what it made me realize is I actually really wish that happened more often. I wish Texas would go and debate Washington or New York.
Yeah,
like
that would be cool.
Governors
that would
debating, like that was probably in my life one of the more interesting debates in that it was actually kind of a debate. Like it was pretty factual. Even if they were roasting each other, it was topics that they stayed pretty on target. They knew exactly what to roast each other on. They talked about COVID, homelessness, housing, all the immigration, all the things we hear about without kind of platitudes. So it made me really wish, I'm like, man, I wish we would have governor debates every month, because I thought it was pretty cool. But I think that was a win for both sides. I don't think either side was hurt because Gavin Newsom got his name out there. It was kind of a quasi-presidential debate, but you're right. He's not running, but he got the free media and eye time.
DeSantis got media time.
He needed a morale boost.
Yeah.
I think it hyped up his team.
He's fighting a little bit more, too.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think he should have come out fighting from the get-go if he really wanted it. He was really soft on Trump, and now he's going hard. And I think the strategy should have been the inverse. I think he should have come out really hard and then gone soft, and kind of placated the crowd. But now, so I don't know his.
So with the Democrats, you think it could be Biden, it could be whoever that they can control the easiest. That's who they're good with, and they'll push it and find a way in their hopes to win. And you don't see Michelle popping up?
I think it's going to be one of those scenarios where
can he walk?
They have a bunch of different plans, and all the powers that be are ready for when they can execute their plan. I don't know what that looks like, but say, for example, Biden dies. Everyone's going to be like, time to call my contact who I've been waiting on to see who I can get to endorse my guy. If Biden doesn't step down, then they're like, okay, how can I gain influence in this administration, right?
How long does she have to say, I'm going to run?
Who, Michelle?
Yeah. Or anyone for that matter.
That's the other hard part, because in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, I would have guessed it would have needed to be sooner rather than later.
I thought it was by sometime in November, but you're in this shit.
So they have the primary, which they're not really going to have. But technically, if he drops out, yeah, he could drop out in October. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I don't think there's any rules if a candidate decides to drop out.
So if he decides to drop out, then can anybody just decide, okay, I'm 2 years late or a year late, but I'm running now?
I guess. I don't even know what that process is.
Yeah.
But of course, they wouldn't wait that last minute. But the DNC is a very authoritative organization. And so they could be like, hey, Michelle Obama's in now. No arguing. But once again, who's pulling the strings at the DNC? There's not one person. It's multiple warring factions. That's what, this Israeli-Hamas conflict is revealing within the Democratic Party. Who's got power? The president of Yale just said she's not resigning.
Yep.
What does that tell you? Once again, so she probably had every major donor threaten her who got her in power.
And this was going on 8 months ago. We had Amy Waxon from UPenn, and they fired her. Woman's been there forever. Like, I mean, she was like the top professor with lawyer and social and everything. Boom, fired over. She said something like, I don't think it's bad. She just basically said, if in so many words, if you're not from this country and you don't want to act like you're in this country, then go.
And she got fired for that.
She got fired for that. In so many words, yeah.
And now,
right, Rob?
Yeah,
pretty much.
And now the head of Yale is defending herself and saying, no, I'm good. And we don't need your money. So when you put people in power, they want to stay. And we always assume, and Democrats publicly facing, especially in Congress, always vote together, always united. But behind the curtains, behind the scenes, especially in a presidential election, you have a lot of different power players pulling the strings, all trying to create their own fiefdoms. Another reason Jim Biden's president is because of a guy named Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn is the only Democratic congressman in South Carolina.
What does that matter?
Because Joe Biden lost New Hampshire in the primary. Oh. Joe Biden lost Iowa.
Won South Carolina.
Gets the black vote, wins Super Tuesday, steals the nomination.
That was it.
Last budget, Jim Clyburn's district got $115 million from the federal government.
Last budget?
Yeah, 2021 or 2022. That's how our fiefdoms in power work. And so the next candidate, I hope Jim Clyburn likes, you know what I mean? And Jim Clyburn has already said, I want Biden to remain the nominee.
Of course he does.
Of course he does.
Right? So when you have that kind of stuff, you want to think, okay, well, it doesn't make sense. Biden can't talk, right? But there's powers that be who are comfortable with what's going on, that are maybe so confident in their ability to win that they don't want a new power structure, because Jim Clyburn and Elizabeth Warren are going to lose all their influence. Why would they want to change, even if it's for the better?
I agree
now,
with you.
What does the candidacy of an RFK do? Who does that take away from? Does that take away from Trump? Does that take away from Biden?
In my personal opinion,
no?
It only takes away from Trump, because you have people...
Trump?
Yes.
Because he's more like Trump.
You have people who are for the global American empire and people who are against it. And that's it. That's the demarcation line. You see that in the war for Ukraine. RFK is against the war in Ukraine. That right there tells me that's his voter base. How many Republicans are for the war in Ukraine? Very few. On the Republican stage, the majority of the main people are anti-Ukraine. Trump's anti-funding Ukraine. Biden is not. What does that tell you? Who's he going to pull from? So when they go, and that's why I think RFK, if he wanted to have true influence and hurt Biden and help his mission, he should have stayed a Dem and ran in the primary. But by dropping out, He freed up a huge, because imagine you can't replace Joe Biden with a Michelle Obama if you have a primary.
Right.
So now if no one's running against Biden, huge weight off our chest.
Mm-hmm.
And the Democrats that RFK polls from are blue dog Democrats who would have voted for Trump, who are labor union Dems, like the West Virginia Dems,
Right.
who are now mostly
Blue
Republican.
Jean. That's what he's.
But I think he felt that he had no shot as a Democrat because
He
of the
doesn't have a
agenda.
shot at all.
At all, but
so
I-
the question is, what's his goal?
Maybe he thought he did have a shot as an independent.
Back to like even our talking points with Vivek. What's your aim? He's an old guy, no real legacy. His legacy was vaccines and health. Hasn't made an impact. Probably feels like, you know what, if they kill me, whatever, I want to be known for something, I'm going to run.
Yeah, they denied him. I couldn't believe when they denied
They
him.
still denied him
They're,
Secret
they're
Service.
still doing it.
Yeah, he still doesn't have it.
Kennedy?
Yeah, he's still got his own. I know they're about to make that a trilogy.
Isn't that like a little crazy too?
Yeah, obviously.
Fuck.
And for all I know, that's why he dropped down and ran independent. But in any case, if I was a Kennedy, if you're someone who, for example, is anti-vaccine and you vote for RFK as an independent, you're an idiot, right? Because you're essentially should have just voted for Trump. Like that, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Independents and a lot of these RFK type people just don't understand basic principles of American politics.
So who do you see lining up at the end? You Trump.
I think it's going to be Trump and Biden.
You do think it would be Trump and Biden?
Yeah, we'll see how Iowa goes. I mean, DeSantis, his team keep touting that they're going to win Iowa. But he's got to win Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. And I think that's going to be rough. It really depends. And we'll know in 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I think DeSantis could have a shot, but
At winning?
at winning the primary could. When I say could, that could be 5%, that could be 20%.
Yeah.
But I think since 2015, we've been in the Trump movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you can't destroy mythology like that.
But can he win? Because it's just a battle of who can cheat more. You might not be able to say that with your position, but I'll say it. So I'll just say it like this. Can they beat the Democrats cheating?
I don't know if that helps me any.
Do the Republicans have a chance to win? And if so, what percentage would you say? Given all of the circumstances.
I think it depends how darky things are going to get. Okay,
Well, they're
so
pretty fucking dark, bro. They're like kind of out of options.
Let's assume
Trump's
elections are
alive and
fair.
he's there.
Let's assume elections are fair.
Okay, they're not.
I know.
Let's
but
just be
assume.
real,
I'm
but
going to
they're
walk
not.
through some scenarios. And it'll help me cover my ass too. Let's assume elections are fair. I think Trump has a very good shot.
Let me know when I'll wake up when you're done with this.
What's interesting is everything is based off of political fiefdoms. And what a lot of Americans don't realize is that it's easier to finagle a presidential race than it is a congressional race or even a governor's race. Because as we've seen, you just need the head of a major city to do your bidding, right? If you want to pump up votes or pump up anything for both Republicans and Democrats.
Okay, now let's pretend that they're fake. Okay?
Yeah, so if
and
they're-
they rig. Let's just pretend hypothetically they both cheat.
A lot of it comes, if they both cheat, a lot of it comes down to marketing. The biggest thing is how big is the DNC going to prop up Biden, and is the RNC going to prop up Trump? Because it becomes a ground game. And if they're both going to cheat, you just both need foot soldier pumping the votes, whether it's in a rural county that no one has access to or it's an inner city that no one has access to.
So are they going to pump up Trump is what it comes to. And
You
are
also
they? Are they gonna
have
pump
to
him up?
see
Uh,
you had a lot of loyalty in the Democratic base in 2020. The key is that loyalty's still there, and are people scared to do it again? Now that they have camera footage, you know, and you could even say, you know, Sam, that camera footage is made up, all the talking points are made up. And even if the majority of the public believes that, if you're a runner trying to do that pumping, you know, you could be thrown under the bus. The stakes are higher, right?
hold on that. Was it Dan that said that those envelopes that were put in those drop boxes, who knows what was put in there? Was that Dan?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay, keep going.
So it's tough. I mean, I think, for example, Governor Kemp in Georgia, the reason that makes him so interesting is he obviously hates Donald Trump. And so if Donald Trump wins the primary, Kemp, just to control his own fiefdom, might just say, "You're not winning Georgia. I don't care what happens. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that you don't win Georgia."
And that's also where he has a case that I think is a
Yeah.
dangerous one.
Yeah.
But is it the governor? There's someone there that likes him, right?
Dude, a lot of people in Georgia.
I mean, they could,
Not the governor.
not the governor. So if he gets found guilty, right, who could he take that to then in Georgia? The Supreme Court of Georgia, right?
yeah,
It's still in Georgia.
yeah.
I mean, does he have a shot with the Supreme Court in Georgia?
That I don't know.
No.
It really depends. And you know, Trump and his team have been pretty good at making inroads and having their own loyalists in each state. And Trump's got a lot of loyalists in Georgia, and a lot of them I think work with Kemp because if you don't, your bills might die. But that doesn't mean they're not waiting for the right time to get around them, right? And Supreme Court stuff is, of course, obviously always different. I don't know. I assume the Supreme Court in Georgia is mostly Republican leaning. I would assume. I don't actually know. But it's definitely a red state on the government side. But everything else would be a guess.
And what you can talk about, what's the talk like with the DO? They're, foreign indictments, bullshit, speedy trial. Like a federal case takes years. They're trying to do this in 9 months.
Yeah.
That's like, that never happens.
It feels like reality TV, right?
Yeah.
And every time he gets indicted, his popularity goes up.
But do they feel like that? Or no
within,
like within like the Senate, Florida, the people you're dealing with all the time in politics?
Florida specifically is interesting because you have a faction that have come out and endorsed Trump who are now, I think, like anathema in the Florida legislature because DeSantis runs the show. So as a governor, he's not going to reward you for, supporting his competitor. So you can expect your bills to die. You can expect your funding to be cut for as long as DeSantis is in power. And that's just not even a DeSantis thing. That's how it always works. Politics is about rewarding your friends, hurting your enemies. You're going to go against me. But that also means for those Florida politicians who are risking their necks and going for Trump, if Trump does win the primary, you can expect to see them move up, right, and gain more powerful positions, which will be interesting to watch. It's all betting. Politics is a lottery. Right. It really is. It's a lottery. You treat these things as you're pulling the slots and you're making sure that your chances are the best that they can be, right? So it's definitely made the dynamic interesting. I mean, our legislative session is January to February of 2024, and that coincides with, the Iowa primary.
Yeah.
So how can DeSantis use that to generate free media for himself? Talk about his legislative agenda for Florida, but America. That's the advantage you have as governor.
That's big, yeah.
But it could also hurt him, which I don't think this is going to happen. But one thing I thought about is you could have Trump buy off, certain representatives, which I don't think has happened. But if you're thinking strategically, you could have Trump buy off certain representatives that hurt some of DeSantis's bills and make him look ineffective, right? And then you're like, oh, you can't even run Florida.
How are you going to run?
Yeah. How interesting or how dirty or how whatever will it get if DeSantis can win Iowa? I know it's the first state.
It's all about momentum, right? It's all about political momentum.
But if he wins that,
how
Trump
vicious
has to be like,
does Trump get?
Fuck.
Oh, yeah, probably.
It goes heavy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's when the ratings go up. That one, you might turn on your TV. Oh, no, you just go to your...
Well, I'll watch it on Twitter. I do think things would heat up and ramp up. And I think you'd see a big shift and big surprise.
That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting. It would be really interesting, which I love when things are interesting in politics because it makes people pay attention.
Right.
And it's the only way you can get them to pay attention. And that was always the best thing about Trump is people are actually paying attention. The amount of people who I've talked to who are like, yeah, my wife used to never talk about politics, but since Trump, now she's honed in.
How far is he up right now? Can you go?
Well,
the polls say like 40% or something.
I hate those polls because they're out of 1,000 people.
That was one of my questions. How much do you trust those polls?
I don't trust polls. I think the best thing to do is anecdotal evidence. And I think anecdotes are the best that you can get.
Like going to diners, things like that.
Yeah, go to your barbershop. I'm not in an Iowa barbershop though.
Yeah.
But that's why I love going to a barber. People are like, why do you pay for a haircut? I'm like, I get my haircut for a variety of reasons. One, No one touches my hair but my barber because he's great. I love
Yeah.
the same thing. Although he's, I started letting it grow out. That's why it looks how it does right now. I don't have skin fade, so don't judge my hair. But I love listening to what they're talking about.
You know what's interesting? I've had the same guy cut my hair for.
Who's awesome? That guy's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, he's really good. He's my dude. He's from Cuba and his family.
Yep.
And he said before, everybody hated Trump, couldn't stand him, Democrat all the way. He said now the whole fucking Cuban community is for Trump,
Loves him.
loves him to death.
Not just
total
Cubans.
switch. And he said now, this time people coming in, it's all Trump, Trump, Trump. Whereas before it was, he's crazy, he's this, he's that. I found it really interesting.
Brazilians love him. Venezuelans love him.
And check this out.
Anecdotal.
So he works for 2 years to get his dad to America from Cuba the right way.
Yeah.
His dad finally gets here and comes here. Stays here 2 months, hates it, goes back to Cuba. Doesn't want to be here. Food, the drinks. He was bitching like crazy at my house about the Coca-Cola, that it's so different in Cuba than here.
But is he just coming here to chill out?
No, he was coming to get the time in so he could get his green card, so he would come for a month and then have to go back. And then he finally got enough where he could become American and live here permanently. And after 2 months of being here 2 months straight, he told his sons, send me back. I don't want to live like this. No way.
But then you'll talk to his son, and his son's like, I'm never going back.
Yeah, his son's like, I ain't going there.
Yeah, so maybe it's just an age thing.
Like stuck in the ways.
Yeah.
And then you come here and everything's different, tastes like shit.
Yeah.
And, they're very into food, or he's very into food.
Yeah, you might be poor, but the chicken you just killed was from your neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
You know what I
Maybe
mean?
organic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for spring break when I went to Puerto Vallarta, I went to get dinner and I went to take a dump.
And they killed it.
And then they were killing the chicken under me. And I'm like, oh, that's some shit in Mexico. No, I was the one that was getting served.
You ate it later.
What?
Yeah, fresh.
That's awesome.
No preservatives.
When I went to,
shit in it.
actually, I went to Palestine and visited some friends out there I went to Ramallah, 2017, 2016. And I visited some friends and everything, we were on a mountain, no AC. And they're like, during Ramadan, served me all this food, and they're like, yeah, I killed a chicken like 2 days ago from so-and-so down the street. Best food. Yeah, so good. So fresh, so amazing. I was like, what?
With the economy like this, I was out the other day. Everybody's still going out to eat. The malls are packed. I mean, the credit card, I know they're skyrocketing.
American travel to Europe has increased.
Right.
So the American-European season is, let's say it's from starts in April and carries out till August and then dies off. This year, it went to October. And so I was looking, I was like, how does this make sense? How are so many Americans traveling? And it's at the point where Americans are so in debt, what's another 5K?
Right.
Seriously. If I'm $100,000 in debt,
government.
why not add 5K and actually go enjoy life in Europe? Right. And so then I looked at all these different financing options. Financing options are opening up for travel. Interest payment plans for airplanes, for hotels, payment plans for everything that they know that they're never going to pay on, that they're going to pay the minimum on. We're at the debt jubilee side where now the debt's so high. Why not there's no longer the debt incentive, which is normally like, oh, I need to constrain my spending so I can pay off my debt.
What do you think the average American is in debt? Like if we look up, what's the average American in debt?
Is it $20,000?
I
Student
don't
loan
know.
debt alone
that's
is
my-
$20,000. Student loan debt alone is $20,000. If it is anything, I'm scared to be like 100,000, 50,000.
Well, you got to think. What do you think the average person makes a year? So if the average person makes a year, maybe
makes like 45 to 50.
Hell no.
You think it's less?
Fuck yeah.
Oh, geez, I was right. 100,000.
Total external household debt is 103,000. That's up 11% from 2020 when an average total consumer debt was 92.
But see, look, most is mortgages, so it's just housing.
Say that, yeah.
Which you think about it, you don't think constrained income when you think of, oh, I took a mortgage out. Like that's so normal. Student debt, auto loans has gone up. I know that. So credit cards actually isn't as high, but 16K worth of credit card debt for the average American is pretty high.
Yeah, especially if you're only making
Right.
Even if you are making.
So now look up average household income.
Yeah, average household income.
And that'll put it into perspective.
Well, average debt per household. Yeah,
No, due income.
you're right on that damn student loan.
70.
Oh,
Wow.
That's 2022 income levels.
of course, not adjusted for inflation.
Right, that doesn't seem right to me. But
Read that whole thing, Rob.
income levels vary across geography, race, and gender. According to the ASEC, median household income was $74,580 in 2022, which is about a 2% decrease from the median household income in 2021, and a nearly 5% decrease from 2019.
Put in
2021 is when everybody got the checks too. So
put in either PPP, which is the purchasing power parity, or adjusted for inflation.
65,000. That still seems like a lot.
To me, I thought it'd be like 55.
Between two.
Right.
Like if there's two in the household.
Two incomes.
Two incomes.
Oh,
56.
is that based off two people?
Yeah, the household.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking maybe I saw individual.
Yeah, I'm thinking
was
individual.
45 or something.
Yeah, that's probably
That's a good
right.
point. So look up do average American individual income.
I think it's under 30. But then you throw in like the trillion, then that kills the average. You know what I mean?
just a little bit.
You take Elon, Warren Buffett, and
That's what I saw.
That's right. Yeah.
46.
That I understand. I believe that.
that's the average a year, huh?
I believe that.
Canada,
Well, it is
that-
Wikipedia, so who knows?
Yeah, but I.
But it says
that's pretty
PPP.
close.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
You don't think so?
Nope. Nope.
See, I think about 45 to 50.
45 to 50. Huh?
One person.
Well, what's 15-hour minimum wage? What does that add up to over a year?
I
for
don't know.
full
What's the
time?
minimum wage right now?
Terrible.
Let's say it's
math.
15.
It's $8.15.
No, 15. Let's say it's $15. What is that?
Get your calculator
Well,
out.
10 would be
My
150.
dad'd be so ashamed.
Yeah,
terrible.
I don't know,
Sam,
so
you
could imagine.
stupid
Hey,
idiot.
Chat
You-
GPT, what is
10
Yeah, I
times-
know.
10, 150,
Call my
so
mom.
300, 600.
Yeah.
That's 750 a week,
Sam, why'd I raise you? You
right?
can't do
750 a week.
750 a week.
Yeah, 750 a week, 1,500 is 3. So about 36.40. That's what I think it is. I think it's around 30.
36?
30, 36, yeah.
Really?
Well,
See, I think it's a little higher. Than
okay, but you take out that average, right? Take out, say, what's the average income for people that make less than 250,000? I don't know if you could look that up, but this has incorporated trillionaires and billionaires and
Yeah.
everybody else. But I go out to the mall and I see it's jam packed.
Fact.
Best Buy, jam packed.
Yeah.
iPhone comes out, sold out. Do you think they're just racking up the credit?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you look at the government, you're like, well, what the fuck? Who cares? They're the government's in debt. Why don't I go in debt too?
But how do they get it? That's what how are
Credit
they
cards
getting the
just
money?
keep allowing it.
Right.
I think credit cards keep allowing it.
They're upping it with the debt and everything? Do you really?
Because
Holy
I
shit.
think the credit cards know that they can get bailed out if they need to. I think we're at the debt jubilee, which you know what I mean when I say that, when all
Depression?
debts when debts get erased. So debt jubilee is when you amass so much debt over history, you have kings come in and say all debts are erased, clean slate. And I think we're at the point where that's the only option we're going to have. And that's why I think it's really stupid anytime a talking point is we need to cut the deficit. We're not coming back from $33 trillion in debt. You don't come back. So you look at alternatives. And Americans don't care. Americans don't care about the debt. If you look at every big issue, Americans who say they care about the debt are like the libertarians who vote for RFK Jr.
Right.
Whatever. So when people attack Trump on increasing the debt or attack any Republican on increasing it, I'm like, if politics is about rewarding your friends and hurting your enemies, like Trump was the first Republican, I think, to finally realize debt doesn't matter. I need to get money to my people, and that's what's going to make them happy. And that's how you win. And that's why Democrats win a lot, because Democrats don't care about that. They're like, how can we pump out more checks?
Yeah, they can't find $3 billion, $6 billion. Fuck.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, seriously. Like you can't. And I did a video talking about Vivek loves talking about shutting down federal agencies. I tell him, I'm like, don't say you're shutting down a federal agency to cut the debt. Say you're going to shut down a federal agency and give that money to the American people in the form of a check.
He said that to us without the check part.
Yeah,
And then
see,
mass layoffs.
The check is the key, because then you get Americans addicted to shutting down government. Oh, they're shutting down another agency? How much money am I going to get in the mail?
So how would you recommend he says it?
I would say for every government agency, because that's your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
So I'd say we're giving your taxpayer dollars back to you. So I'm shutting down, we have 17 intel agencies. I'm shutting down the Department of Education. You're all getting a $2,000 check.
He said, remember, and I liked what he said. He goes, if I win, or when I win, he didn't say if.
Yeah,
when I win, he said, I am the boss of the executive branch.
Yep.
As the boss, as any boss, you're fired. I can fire you. And that's where he said he would take with, when it comes to
what he said. Well, he can't fire one person. He has to do a mass layoff. Yeah.
Right.
And then he can do it like that. The FDA.
He is the boss of the executive branch.
Yep.
And so you say, I'm shutting down the FDA,
right,
and I'm giving a check to you. Who wouldn't love that? I'm
Right.
getting a $2,000 check in the mail. What's funny, and because if you control the money printer and the budget, let's say the FDA budget only gives you like $30 per person.
Yeah.
You don't have to actually do that. You can say, I'm shutting it down. You're getting a $500 check. Where are you getting that money? Don't worry about it. That's your reward. You know what I mean? You just start buying votes.
And say you don't want to vote. You're not a voter, but you hear that.
Right.
And you hear, whoa, if I just go out for 5 minutes, I might get $2,000.
Well, it's to me, it's become like a joke because the debt, like you said, it's like monopoly money. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Like you just print. Like there's a standard before you weighed it off of gold, right? How much gold compared to this, and that's how much. Now it's like it doesn't matter.
Well, the
Keep printing.
U.S. dollar is crazy because it's at this point like a radio network that the world runs on, and it's the more you understand something like Bitcoin. I understand that I don't even know if I know what the U.S. dollar truly is, right? Because it really doesn't act like money; it acts like a communication network, and that's why I think a lot of the principles that economists try to use to talk about it. Like, I know this is counterintuitive, but I'm not always entirely sure that money printing leads to actual inflation. Because if you look at the global economy, dollar liquidity isn't there. We're currently having a liquidity crisis. Where's the money going when we print it? The way you have inflation is you print money, it gets in the hands of people, and that's what devalues it because then we know it's worth less because there's more of a supply. If they're printing the money and the supply is not getting to the American people, but it's going to fund certain transactions in Japan because they need dollars for liquidity, correct? Or where's the money going? Maybe it's being pumped back into the military-industrial complex, and maybe that delays inflation. But if the dollar is actually like some Wi-Fi telecommunications network that the world functions on, then it's not just money, and so we have to think about it differently. And so that's where I'm like, okay, do I even understand the U.S. dollar system? Like I'm always racking my brain because it breaks all the rules all the time. One guy I love who talks about that is a guy named Jeffrey Schneider. He's actually in Palm Beach.
Really?
He now has his own YouTube. He used to work for Alhambra Partners. You should have him on. He's so smart. I think he's smart. I was listening to him in 2017, and he's one of the first people I've ever heard say, we didn't have a recession, we had a depression, and we're still in it. And we are still in the depression no matter what they say to you. We have been in a decade-long depression, and I have the numbers to add it up.
I'm with him.
And so he's talking about bond markets and stuff, and every time I read something of his, I'm like, wow, I'm so stupid. And that's why I love reading them, because I'm like, wow, I have to go on Google terms.
The FX market.
Oh,
what
yeah.
does that have to
Eurodollar
do with money?
University.
Eurodollar for that.
Do you know what a Eurodollar is?
After all, everything we hear in the main
Go down to
is
Australia.
governments are money. Governments have monopoly over money. End of story.
Play a little bit. Let me see this shit.
Not even close. The Eurodollar is our money. It is our monetary system. It is nothing like
He used to have
anything
short
we've ever
hair.
heard of before.
Now he's a Chad.
What I hope is that by the time you get to the
Mushrooms,
end of this video,
DMT, maybe a
you'll
little bit.
appreciate why I use the black hole as both our logo and the analogy for the Eurodollar system, thanks to David Parkinson's beautiful illustration, because the Eurodollar is hidden from us, largely hidden from us, and most of all, though, like a black hole, it impacts everything around it. So we're left talking about government bills and collateral and FX swaps and things like that because we're trying to interpret what must be going on inside this key crucial monetary system from the way in which it makes everything else around it move. But the point here is the crucial matter. What is even this Eurodollar? It is, as I just said, our money.
So now what is it? Yeah.
So the Eurodollar are dollars outside of U.S. control.
printed by the U.S.
Printed by the U.S. So what happens if?
So I printed $1 million. It's outside of the U.S., but it's U.S. money, but it's outside.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when we give money to Ukraine, do we control that money? And when Ukraine buys goods from China, for example, not saying they do, but they do, China now has dollars.
Not saying they do, but they do.
So, like the Federal Reserve, what makes the Federal Reserve's job hard is its original mandate was inflation and employment in the United States. We were not a global reserve currency. So when the Fed sets interest rates, it controls the entire global economy. So how do you factor in helping Americans and making sure the global economy survives? The euro dollar is dollars that are outside the U.S. government's control. And if we have a fiat dollar-based system, that means we can't control what Namibia, Zambia, Argentina, Brazil, how are they using their dollars? I don't have control of that. So one example I give people is foreign aid isn't necessarily about actually helping countries. It's about making sure there's enough dollar liquidity for money to go around, right? If we're buying oil in dollars, where do they get the dollars to buy the oil, for example? You know what I mean? We have to print that for these people. So we're not just printing money for the American economy. We have to print money for the global economy.
I see.
So that's why it's like, so the euro dollar is just a term. It has nothing to do with euros or Europe. It's just a term for dollars that are outside of U.S. boundaries and control.
Did you know that?
No, but that makes sense.
So what's crazy is you never think about it. But so if we're the world reserve currency, we never understand truly what that means. That means when we print money, we have to print enough for everybody in the world to use it.
Wow.
And we
I didn't
don't
know
really,
that at
well,
all.
we know it. We know it because we say all the time it's the world reserve currency, but it never clicks like, oh, wait a minute. When we print money, I got to make sure China has enough dollars to participate in the world economy. I got to make sure Russia still needs U.S. dollars. Iran still needs U.S. dollars.
Our U.S. dollars.
Yes, our U.S. dollars.
Wow.
Everyone needs it, but we're the world reserve currency. And like I said, that's why it becomes like a radio network. And I stole that from him. That's not my original thought. And what's funny is that's why I was like, could Bitcoin replace this? Because Bitcoin acts like a radio network. And I don't think he's been on some Bitcoin podcasts. I don't think he's a Bitcoin guy. I don't think he believes it's money like the US dollar is, which I'm fine with. But he's the guy who I'm always like, I don't understand this dollar system at all. Because every principle that I know about money, like we're talking about with inflation and printing, works if it's just America. But what does it matter if we print $1 trillion and none of it goes to Americans? Like, how does that affect? Like, it's just crazy to think about.
It's really crazy. So when I go to pay for something in euro is usually higher than the U.S. dollar. But the euro is the U.S. dollar, just not in America.
No. So don't confuse the euro dollar with euros.
Okay, that's where you got me confused.
So euros are the European currency. The only reason it's called the euro dollar is because when it was first talked about, euro just means, I think, outside.
But
right?
it's printed by the U.S.
Euro dollars
outside.
are just dollars, like dollar bills we have outside of the U.S. That's it.
But when I go to pay for something in euros, what's that?
That's the euro. I know, that's what makes
Two
it
different
confusing.
things?
Two different things.
Whoa.
Euro
Okay.
is the currency of the euro, the EU. Euro dollars is just a term for dollars outside of U.S. control.
That's a
or
tough
borders.
one. That's a tough
I know,
one.
because,
Kinda,
and I think that's why your average person is like, oh yeah, euro dollars, European currency. It's like, no. It's actually a completely different thing.
Yeah, the whole time I'm thinking the dollar sign with the euro, and I'm thinking about how every time I pay for something in euro, it's more than U.S. dollar.
So
Wow.
when
You did this?
Sort of.
when a bank
fully.
in
Not fully.
no, it's just it's simple. It's just euro dollar. What do you call a dollar inside the U.S.? You call it a dollar. What do you call a dollar
I get
outside the U.S.? A euro dollar, and that's it. So when a bank in London has a bunch of dollars from doing purchases or business with America, what do they do with the dollars?
I don't know.
What do they do when people want to use those dollars to purchase other things? So then there becomes a euro dollar market that the U.S. doesn't necessarily have control over.
I see.
So now you have banks trading euro dollars stores that they have with each other, right? And leveraging the amount of dollars that they have, and we don't control that. So what happens when you have this network of a global reserve currency that we control, and there's a liquidity crunch around the world because there's not enough dollars, which from what I understand is what's currently happening. There's not enough dollars to go around because people keep hoarding them, right? So does the Fed then say we actually have to print more money, or we actually have to lower interest rates to preserve the world economy? But what if the U.S. economy is overheating, and the only way to stop that is to raise interest rates? But that's going to screw over entire countries that have huge Eurodollar stores, right? And so
It's a hell of a predicament there.
Yeah.
well, it's so funny because I think Jerome Powell makes like less than $500,000. I'm like, that's a lot of stress for not as such. But I know he'll make all his money on the back end, so I don't feel too bad. But when you begin to understand that, the dynamic of how the dollar's used becomes like explosive.
And how would you wipe the debt? So if you wipe how do you wipe a $33 trillion debt?
I think if I'm the United States and I'm only thinking United States interest, you have to do it while we're still the reserve currency. Because if we're not the reserve currency, you only screw yourself. But if everyone else has to use your product and you're the money printer,
It keeps the value.
I don't know what would happen. I mean, the value has to get crushed. But the problem is because it's the basis for the world economy, it's not going to be easy for people to just turn off and switch and be like, okay, we're switching to something else. Because it's like the US dollar is like a drug, and you either take the drug with everybody else or you go off your own and just kind of suffer. Like you have to get off that high. And countries who try to do that always end up being overthrown or going through a crisis because the economy just can't handle it because it's so structurally important.
Overthrown in a crisis, right?
Yeah.
So I think we should be having like Senate hearings about this rather than UFOs with nothing to show me that you have a UFO, and I'm pissed.
I know, it's entertaining.
So fuck the UFOs. Why
What?
are we not talking about?
Fuck the
Well, until they have a part or something, and
But
not
how
some
do
guy
you-
telling me that there's one. I need a piece.
How do you describe what I just described to the average
You
American?
can't. You can't.
And you're working a 9 to 5. Do you give a shit?
No, you don't give a
You
shit.
know,
I mean,
can you really?
But what
really
I'm
worry
saying
about
is
it?
within these conversations should be happening. And yeah, maybe nobody gives a shit, but maybe 10 people do that tell 10 people that tell 10 people. It's a lot bigger of a deal than a UFO coming and you have no proof.
I look at it from like an archaic time period, right? Where cavemen, right? And eventually, I created this coin or this thing out of a rock, and that was my way to say, Tommy, you have something I want. I trade this with you. Well, I'm the printer of this or the maker of this coin, right? So I control it, right? And I'm the one making it until someone else comes along and says, no, we're not using that. I've made this, and this is what we use. So where does that happen where that then switches?
I don't know. That's why the U.S. dollar's something that I don't think we've ever seen before, and that's why I still don't know how to compare it, because it's almost like, what if you're the only shipbuilder and shipbuilders and ships become a currency?
Right.
Right. So ships are used to transport goods, and without ships you can't trade. But then you're also using ships as money. But it's a terrible comparison because I can't imagine using ships as money. But that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why they call it it's like a cellular network. It's communication.
Yeah, the principle's the same.
And so how do you overinflate or print communication? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, okay, so what is this dollar? And I think that's where a lot of people in my Bitcoin community kind of get confused and kind of berate stupid talking points, because I'm like, guys, I'm feeling we don't actually understand the dollar. I don't think we have, because we've never seen anything like it. And I do think there are certain economic principles that we can still obviously see applied when normal economic principles are followed. But yeah, what do you do? What do you do when China's like, I can't sell you my goods because you're taking dollars and I don't have dollars to give you?
But to me, also, the dollar itself has, with my kids, I always bring my kids as an example. I don't carry cash hardly at all anymore.
Yeah.
My father
It's all electronic.
flips on me. You don't have cash. You should have cash, and cash is king, like they always say. And old timers, they'd pull out their wad of cash.
Yeah.
And it had a value. It was there. It was in your hand. You saw it. The $100 bills, the 50s. You knew it. Well, you don't have that anymore. So all this currency is just in this space.
In the
it's on the
ether.
back. It's the number. There's none. Because my kid will be like, "Oh, well, it's only this much money." Do you know how much? Let's talk about work to make that money, to get that, how much is. But they don't realize the concept of that dollar bill.
And then let's talk about the banks, right? So you put $1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
That $1 million is not in the bank.
No.
You no longer have that money. That money's getting circulated, loaning it out, this, that, the other. That bank has maybe 10 grand there, and that's it. You're not getting that $1 million today. They don't have it.
And
they lend it
zero.
out.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
it's a wonderful life.
it's crazy. I think there's there's not much in the bank. Like Bank of America,
bank.
Chase, overall,
When you
for the
think-
person.
When you
it's
think
bad.
about currency and money and all of the discussion around, it's a crazy thing to think about.
Well, and technological innovation has actually hurt banks because people think the rules around banking is antiquated, but it's all a part of the system. So why aren't banks open on the weekend to ensure they have enough money in the books to fund everything that they've just done? But like when Silvergate failed and Silicon Valley failed, and when Signature failed, those investors had the ability to get their money out right away. And that was why the feds had to meet over the weekend, which they never do, because you could have an instant bank run. Whereas traditionally, you have to say, I'm pulling my money out Friday. I know I'm going to pull it out Monday. Right. That bank goes to the vet and says, hey, I need over these 2 days, I need a buttload of money. They couldn't do that.
What would happen if 1,000 people, all banks that have a lot of money, they call and they say, hey, on Monday, I'm taking out $200 million in cash. I need it. Then what? Say that's the number that they don't have.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
You have a bank run. I don't know.
They
give out what they can. Yeah,
it's an interesting.
A real bad problem.
Yeah.
So what do you, at this point where you're at, like in your head, what do you think the dollar is?
I still haven't figured it out.
Give me your hypothetical.
I think it's just a
guess.
communication network that everything's built on. That's the best that I can describe it, which once again I just took from him, but I think that makes sense. Because I also think money's energy, right? Money just isn't about measuring value, it's about measuring energy.
Right.
And when you get into, vibrations and that kind of stuff, I think money is a lubricant. It's a way to make things move. Mm-hmm. And it's a language. It translates, right? So when you're paying something, it's not just like, oh, this is my value. You're literally moving energy. And if money is energy and the current energy order just happens to be the US dollar, what does that mean? Where do you want to put your energy? Where is your energy focused? Because you can't focus your energy on everything.
Right.
Even our own human lives, like you pick 3 things that you want to be good at, and focus on those. So that's what I think it is, which sounds kind of ephemeral or whatever, like not real, but
it sounds pretty real.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I can't buy, I can't be like, hey, can I go run a mile for these apples? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like not that type of energy, but when you realize like, what do you do for money? What can money get you? What was the energy put into that apple? And what was the energy I had to produce to get that dollar, to get that apple?
It's
That's the energy exchange.
Energy and communication. Because then you need the communication to transport.
Money's interesting.
Yeah, it is really, wow.
It gets confusing real quick.
Now, let's take that and go to the stock market.
No clue.
Up,
no
down,
idea.
That's all fucked up, right?
Yeah. And it's all based on the dollar.
That's all based on the dollar.
And all pumped, and the feds get involved, and BlackRock gets involved.
I just know that Nancy Pelosi is very good with stocks.
Oh, she's good.
Very good.
Great.
Whatever she buys, we should be buying.
She's very good.
And she's got her fiefdom, and she knows all the players. And, when people like her die, her whole network, goes away. And that network has to be rebuilt. And I think that's a lot of things people don't understand.
But do you think the market's manipulated politically?
Yeah, I think they try to. But once again, both sides or any market with vested interest, has their motives and their pushes. And they all know what's coming. They all know when a regulation for the gas and oil industry is coming, and you see that stock
Right.
move.
Ed Dowd
You're
was
like, oh,
telling
that's
us.
why
Yeah.
it moved 2 weeks ago. Damn it,
We had Ed Dowden, and he's like the trend guy master. So they would all go to him, everyone. Yeah, he's out of that shit now, but he knew the trends. So he
Yep.
knew way ahead what was going to happen, right? And that's how he was just a killer at that. Pull up tab 3.
And that's why consumers can't win, because you can't compete with a guy who. How do you compete with a guy like that?
You can't. You can't. And they're way ahead of the game. That's the whole thing. I'll blow this up a little bit. So top consumer good trends, November 2023. Scroll down. I mean, these are massive, like skyrocketed growth year to year, 600%.
Body scanning suit.
Dance Bit application offering 28-day dance workout.
Dance bit.
Zozo Fit 3D body scanning suit.
Ozovit sounds pretty cool. I don't know.
Mach Wheel is a e-bike brand.
Desk walking pad. What the fuck?
Yeah, you know who does that? Ben. What the hell's his name?
How much
big
of
guy.
these are trends?
Greenfield.
You know people are going to get sick of a desk walking pad.
Like, what is all this shit? I mean,
Just like Peloton.
Peloton dynamic universal pickleball rating, a unique algorithm.
Pickleball. Is
That's so funny.
new
Where do you
thing.
see? Oh my gosh,
That's the new thing, man. I'm telling you.
It's a new investment. It's just a new.
Now look,
all the big guys are putting their money.
a
in
desk walking pad is a compact, low-speed treadmill engineered to fit under a desk, offering blah blah blah, all-in-one. It's almost like this is all shit to stay at home
Well,
or AI
two
or
are
whatever.
for babies.
What's the
Sports
big-
and outdoors. And so it's entertainment, babies, and
people aren't having
3 are babies. So 3. Well, if you, actually, I'm going to count pet as a baby too.
Oh, boy.
So 4 of those are nurturing, and then the other 4 are entertainment.
Go to the next page real quick. Just see what craziness they have on there. I won't. do it.
Boo,
fuck.
Google.
Ben Greenfield, he walks around with one of those desks. You know how that is?
Oh.
He's on social media. He's like fucking.
There's so many personalities. What's he
And
do?
he's been around forever. Oh, Ben Greenfield.
Speaking, you just brought up the point about pets and pets as people's kids, and I love dogs. I have 3 dogs. Love dogs. I love dogs. But what I can't stand is you go out to the store and everybody brings their fucking dog to the store now. Everybody has their dog at the store, and it's in a stroller or it's being walked, and it's always the little dogs. And I have 2 little dogs, but I have a big-ass dog, too. I told my wife the other day, I said, I'm going to start bringing the fucking big dog out to the store and let somebody stop me. Because you see it now where you need, there's, and we've had a couple of them in, the Warrior's Choice guy. He has he has dogs for vets that come back from combat.
Longo.
Awesome organization there. And it's a service dog. But everybody brings their dog out anymore. Is that something that could be changed? Like we need to have it as marked as a service dog, or is every dog just a service dog now?
Have you also noticed that dog owners have become worse at controlling their dogs?
Yes.
Everyone owns a dog. The dog has no training.
Right.
And they're just like, oh, he just wants to play. No, like you're supposed to have control over your animal. Like that's gotten a lot worse. Like I've noticed that.
And they dump them to the rescue. I helped out the rescue, and they're all there. There's dogs at this one rescue. They've been there in 8 years because somebody had them. The dog wasn't a puppy anymore, not so cute anymore, got older, dumped it off to the rescue. Who's coming to a rescue to get a 7-year-old dog?
No.
So now the rest of its life, it's in a little fucking cage, hopes it gets walked.
But I just find it crazy. But I just find it crazy how everybody brings a dog to the store now, and I'm like, because they act like it's their kid, and I guess for some people it is like their child or whatever you want to say. But it's just weird to me. Next time you're in the store, look around.
No, I do.
How
I
many
think it's a
people have
Florida thing,
dogs?
though.
No, it's everywhere.
Really?
It's everywhere.
Oh.
It's becoming a trend, and that's kind of, people aren't having kids, so they want to foster affection, and they use animals as a way to do that instead of having a kid, which obviously is not good for society in general. But then, it becomes trendy. People make it their personality. You have a lot of people today just don't have a personality, so they latch onto something and make it their personality, which, I I say that and I sound terrible saying that. I think part of that is just humans and normal, right? So I don't want to dig on anybody, but dogs have become one of those. I have plenty of people in my social circles that I knew from college or high school. All they have going in their life is they have a dog and a job, and every picture and photo, look at him, look at my dog. Nothing else to talk about.
I mean, I love
nothing
dogs.
else to talk.
I got 3 dogs.
That's
We
great.
Rescued 2 of them. I got an Eagles jersey for both of them to wear. But,
Great.
But I'm not bringing my dog out to the store. And for people that need it, I do believe there's people like we
they're useful
that need it. But it's become taken advantage of where they're bringing dogs to the store. And I just wonder, you know, and that's a tough one. If they tried to pass a bill, there's going to be people, you know, you're going against dogs or people.
Well, they have
with mental
started
health.
getting more strict. They
Yes,
have gone
they
more
have?
strict with mental service dogs and certifications, and now doctors can't just wave a note.
They got to watch David Goggins, and
Yeah.
they got to find a purpose.
That's
And once
right.
they find a purpose,
Find a purpose, please.
they'll get the fuck up, and they won't need the dog everywhere they go because they'll have a purpose.
But a lot of people, the dog is the purpose.
If it's the purpose and that keeps you alive and that gets you up in the morning and get your shit done, great. But if it's just because,
But I guess
it's
how
your
do you prove that?
buddy?
then? How do you
Yeah,
prove that?
yeah.
Right?
Well, I guess
how
you
do you
can't.
prove it? You can't.
Pull up tab 4. I look at the stories every day just to see like the crazy shit, like the nut.
Yeah.
And you know, today wasn't too insane, but I think most of it's just to take guns. Like some of this shit. Go down, Rob. Scroll down. Go down.
Oh, season-ending ankle surgery for Bears defensive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So like with that. Now I know you don't watch sports, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that college players should get paid?
Oh, there you go.
Because this is because he doesn't watch
Yeah,
sports.
what if
this
I don't
is
care?
a non-bias.
That's an issue.
Yeah, it's an issue.
I think if they're good, why not?
Rob could explain the issue better than me.
Well,
Why is it an
it's-
issue if they
it's-
get paid?
It's a long. It's a.
I don't know how you shorten it.
It's a long.
How do you not? If you can't shorten it, there's no argument.
Here's the issue. This is a good discussion too. This
Is
a
it?
discussion?
Because I'm already getting kind of bored. I have a
all
bad
right,
feeling
so
about
hold
this.
on.
I have a real bad feeling
So
about
you've
this.
got college kids, you've got high school kids now, and they're getting paid money to, you know, donors are coming behind them, car companies,
Yep.
this and that, right? Giving
Yeah.
a lot of money. It takes away now. In both things. The university's making a lot of money off these kids.
Yep.
A lot of money, right? But before they were getting, and they still are, they're getting a free education, they're free room and board, meals, everything paid for, all that good stuff. And stuff was done under the table. Now it's more to the forefront. So the car company before that was giving the mom a Porsche and the dad this. They had to do it secretively, but everyone knew. But now it's in the forefront. But what's happening is, in my opinion, it's ruining the sport itself, meaning there's all this money behind these players, and they're just hopping from train to train to train. They'll be on Florida tomorrow, and then they leave Florida and they're going to go to Georgia the next year, and then from Georgia they're going to go here. So I guess it's almost a free market, but the game itself is being ruined.
Couldn't care less.
Couldn't care less.
Couldn't care less.
I just wonder your opinion because the college coaches
Why
are getting
not?
$1 gazillion.
Yeah,
Then they're-
why not
then
pay the
They're
kid?
selling out the stands, the jerseys, everything else. In my opinion, at the minimum, put it in a savings
That's the
and
part.
yearly release so much of it. Like if you're a good running back and you sold a bunch of jerseys for the college, 20% put that in a trust fund that you get so much every year.
Leave it to the market. If
Yeah.
a college wants to try it out and pay the kids, if they want to poach the kids and that's competitive, like you said, they do it under the table. If they're being more upfront about it, to me, there's no difference. How's it killing the sport? Because there's no brand loyalty.
No, it's because say Alabama has money, right? Say
Yeah.
the College of Alabama has more money than Florida State.
Yeah.
Well, Alabama could pay Sam more than Florida State right now.
That's
and then
how it already is, I thought.
No, before you couldn't
Best
do anything.
recruiters,
Well, that was recruiters, but now you have money in it.
but you have a better stadium, better facilities. So I guess the difference is instead of putting that money into goods to attract you to come
It's
or
going in your
scholarship,
pocket.
it's going in your pocket.
Right.
So to me, it's
then-
the exact same thing in a different form.
Well, the conflict becomes how if you're a school that doesn't have the money,
Then you disappear.
then you disappear.
but that's already a problem. So my home school, USF, great research institution, on top of everything biomedical, doing what I think is what a university should be doing. And in fact, I would make the argument that sports have ruined universities. What does playing football have to do with making better citizens? Now, I think sports have a huge role in life, and I love that people like sports because I think sports are very inspirational. Competition's good. We want to encourage people to aspire to be strong athletes, fast runners, great hand-eye coordination. I love that that's rewarded. I think that's great. But you have the sports football industrial complex that then runs universities. So USF has suffered because they don't have an on-campus stadium.
Right.
Why should a university suffer because they don't have an on-campus stadium? So your question is, what about the small that's already happening? How many schools can fund an on-campus stadium?
Yeah.
In fact, USF is probably better off being able to buy people than fund an on-campus stadium.
Yeah.
So I
that
can make
kinda
the
makes
inverse
sense.
argument and
Yeah.
tell you that's actually incorrect. Smaller universities can benefit because they can poach at least 2 great quarterbacks and not have to take out a 30-year business loan plan to build an on-campus stadium.
Yeah. That's
So it's
a-
microfinance for football. So
Never
that
looked at it
inverses
that
your
way.
I
argument.
like that.
that's why he was the one to ask for
I
this.
got the best question though of the night. I mean, we've talked about a lot of different
Yeah.
stuff here.
Oh,
Yeah.
this
All
is
right,
a surprise one
this
from
is
Yeah.
my
earlier.
surprise
Yep.
question. All right.
Oh, man.
When
Take him out with this one.
when either of you take a shower,
Mhm.
okay, you get in the shower.
Not answering this.
Do you face the shower and let the water hit you the whole time, or do you turn your back and let the water hit you in the back, or are you kind of doing a little bit of both? Which way are you facing when you get in the shower?
Are there people who literally just look at the shower head the whole time or don't look at it the whole time?
Well, what do you do? Me, I go in facing, but then I turn.
Yeah, I turn around. I scrub my front. I scrub my back.
So you go
I
back
turn.
and forth. You don't just stare straight.
Yeah, sometimes I get spicy. I grab the shower head. I got a detachable and a stand-in. Sometimes I, think about my life. Sometimes I use different shampoos.
But most of your
Yeah.
time spent
Oil
in the
ones.
shower, you're washing yourself. Of course, you got to turn because you got to get the water all over. But
Sometimes I take
if you
cold
were
showers.
if you were in the shower for 10 minutes, most of your time spent facing forward, most of your time spent facing backwards or
Forward.
forward. Let the water hit you in the face.
It
Yeah.
depends because sometimes I bring my phone in the shower and I watch stuff or listen to stuff. And that's set up on the back of my shower.
So he's a dually.
Yeah, I'm definitely a dual.
Interesting. I
Because I front would make sense, but then I'm like, so I'll Snapchat or FaceTime people in the shower.
because I believe
I'll be like,
Fuck is
hey,
up with that?
well, 'cause they're not going to see anything. They're just seeing my face because it's like high up.
you Snapchat people in the shower.
Yeah, all the time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but it's not like people are like, whoa, sexual, whatever. It's like, hey, what's up? 'Cause sometimes you're in a good conversation or sometimes I got something funny to say.
Yes, that's where I missed that
Yeah,
whole
that-
generation
yeah, that
shit.
one.
You know what I mean?
Snapchat's awesome. Snapchat's actually my favorite app.
I missed the whole going to dinner and fucking taking a picture of what you're eating. Like,
Yeah,
like I missed that.
My buddy says
Fuck.
camera eats
keep-
first. is
Keep
what
that
he
shit
says.
away from me. What were you gonna say?
Mine was facing the shower, but I've heard that facing the shower when the shower hits you in the face is weird. That it should be the other way. You should be letting it hit you in the back.
Did a woman tell you that
No, I heard it on the radio today.
from a woman?
No, it was a man and a woman having the
Because
discussion.
the only thing I'd think about is if you're a woman with long hair.
Right.
Right.
And maybe I'm stupid for thinking that, but I'm like, okay, they would probably spend a lot of time facing the other way because they got all the long hair. That's the only thing that I could think of.
That's a new one though. Snapchatting in the shower.
Yeah, just being on your phone, TikTok, whatever.
And Snapchat's a big thing, huh? you
Some
just like
people,
it?
even in my generation, hate how much I like it, but I'm very visual. And I think that's what people don't understand is, like, instead of texting me, hey, I would rather take a photo and say hey of myself and receive something from you.
Oh, that's that generation.
Yeah,
there-
like I would rather, I do phone calls, but what's nice about FaceTime, it's like, hey man, what's going on?
I
What's up,
fucking
buddy?
hate FaceTime.
Yeah, I
There's
love
an
FaceTime.
interesting stat though. I read
hate it
about
all.
that. So if I text you right now, or we text, right? Hey,
Yeah.
Tommy, what are you doing? Oh, this, that, blah, 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 blah. Well, me and you are friends. We go back and forth. But let's say I don't know you as well. We know you now. You've been on here a few times. But if I don't know you as well, I'd be like, hey, Sam, more people are inclined to, if I even recorded a video of myself, Not even the FaceTime. I just recorded a video. Yo, Sam, what's going up? It's Rob. How are you? Da 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 da. And sent it to you.
Yeah.
You're more inclined to open that and watch it and build the connection. And
Absolutely.
see it than just a
100%.
text.
That's true.
That's why I love Snapchat, because I have a buddy, Noah. He sends me like long movies, and sometimes I skip through them, and then he gets mad. But he'll send, and he's telling me a story, and so he sells like showers for a living, and so he'll tell me about the worst sale ever, and like he could call and text it, but it's super funny because it's more personable. To me, that's awesome. I think that's a great form of communication. The disadvantage is you have to watch it. So like when we're talking about facing someone when you talk to them, so it's actual eye time, right? And so for me, because I like the human aspect of it, like people always think, and Snapchat was, I think, invented just for sexual purposes. That's why it self-deletes. But to me, it's fun because I think that was the original intention. That's why the logo's a ghost for nudes. Like it was literally invented, I think, for nudes. But now it's become just an app. And what they've done with entertainment is very interesting. And the way they work their algorithm for their like For You page. But like I have anytime I go to the gym, I have a gym group chat. And they'll send me, guess who's in the gym today? And they put it in the Snapchat, or they'll just goofy stuff. So for me, it's super fun.
You know what's odd with you is that like you're no TV, none of this, don't know anything about sports, like certain things
But then
nothing.
I know about this crap.
But yet you enjoy the human interaction face to face, like with the phone, where I would think you wouldn't. But then it's on the phone.
It's still an interaction, though.
Right.
Even on the phone, it's a different. We're thinking of it from me. We're sitting here now. He is, and you'll have a conversation. He's doing the same thing when he's talking to his buddy. They're still having a
Right. Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
I see how
like
that-
my
through that interface.
Yeah.
I've literally so one popular thing is these things called mukbangs,
What's that?
which are very famous. So mukbang is a Korean word that I'm pronouncing wrong.
You're teaching these old guys all kinds
I
of
know.
stuff over here.
So this is a very lucrative market on social media. And it's Korean, I think, for eat with me. And it was originally for, I think, lonely people, but I would sit here and I would eat, right? And then that would be it. And you'd watch someone eat, or you would eat while they
heard
eat,
about
even if you don't know them. So there's very popular ones on YouTube. Some of them are disgusting. Some of them are annoying. Some people do food reviews. Every day they go to their car, like, hey, I'm eating, KFC, or I'm eating Chipotle today. And you literally just watch them eat and they talk. And I was watching a creator the other day, and I think he's true. The future of social media is what you would call the companionship economy. So a lot of growth happening on these TikTok channels is people doing everyday things that you can do alongside them just so you feel like you have company. Same reason that I will have Twitch on in the background while I work. It's not just noise, but there's some kind of humanity to that because someone's playing a game.
And then can you jump in and talk to them?
No, you could comment, but I don't do that. But it's
Yeah.
funny because they might be talking to other people. So there's like a voice. A mukbang is you literally just watch people eat different food. And when I have to eat, when I'm bodybuilding, not that you can tell at all now, but if I'm trying to cut my diet and I have to eat really terrible food, I'll watch a mukbang of someone eating something amazing. And I'll just be sitting eating there with them.
I bet you that has, like, two people eating together, even on FaceTime. I bet that has stopped plenty of suicides.
They say, like, especially in business, there's something about breaking bread together, right?
Yeah.
And especially in person. But going back to where we started at the beginning, and I go out to eat with my friends all the time. So to me, that's nowhere close to being dead.
But if you have no friends,
And you
depressed,
can,
tough childhood, you can have dinner with somebody. You know what I mean? And that could stop you from going off the cliff.
correct. And it really, one of the most popular YouTubers right now is this kid named Sam Solik. Huge bodybuilder. Whatever they feed guys in Ohio, they're huge. The kid's 19.
Up north, man. Yeah.
It's Ohio. It's that Germanic blood that they have in Ohio. But the kid's ginormous. He's on all kinds of steroids and stacks, and he has the body acne. But great kid, really well meaning. And his YouTube channel, which is blown up, is him. Most of the time, it's in his car. Here's what I'm hitting today. Just kind of like not even with an agenda. Like breathe in, being like, yeah, so the other day, and then he's in the gym and he's like, oh, that sucked, but maybe next time I'll get it. And that's it. But like people will latch onto that, or they find certain moments that are memeable in that.
The craziest YouTuber was the one that Matt Cox had come in with. Shout out to Matt Cox. That guy with the sunglasses. This guy would take a shower with sunglasses, and he would do something stupid.
Oh, right.
And the guy was massive, like blowing up like crazy. And that's all it was. This guy in the shower with sunglasses on. Remember that? And I was like, oh boy, we're fucked.
And then it'll go through a hype cycle because of a lot of it becomes memeable. Like even the game I was telling you about, Lethal Company, you know, that won't stay popular forever. But right now it's all over Instagram and my little feed because I play it. I'm sure the algorithm knows, right? And the longer I watch it, the more it gives me that content, right? So, but it's a fun game, but it'll burn out. It can only be so creative for so long until me and my buddies want to play something different. You know, and so it's same with those YouTubers. They blow up, and if they don't adapt, like a Snoop Dogg, they die out too. Right? So you gain the audience, and then you have to move on to something else. And you see that even with the mukbang people. They do collaborations. One of them, who's actually here in Palm Beach, he's the most famous one, is a guy named Nico Avocado, and he's pretty disgusting. I kind of feel bad saying that, actually. He is disgusting, but like he started out as a vegan, super skinny kid. Now he'll be like, I'm 400 pounds, whatever, like, and he'll eat anything. But I remember watching one of his videos just because I'm really attracted to just personalities. And I'm like, you know, what makes them unique? They have a following. They can be terrible people, but I'm like, I always enjoy, like, man, what an interesting personality. In one of his videos, like 3 months ago, he's looking at you and he starts talking about politics. And I was like, I didn't see that coming from anywhere. Politics. And he's talking about like an interaction he had at Walmart. And he's like, what is going on? What is going on as he's preparing his million ramen noodles? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's him. So this is him preparing. Skip ahead, see if he starts eating.
My body, even though I'm allergic to eggs. I eat 12 eggs.
Outfit has his.
Yeah, skip ahead.
Skip ahead, see if he starts eating them. No, go further. Go all the way near the end. See, look.
Who's gonna get some? Who's gonna get some?
Skip another like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go near the end.
That's
Yes.
mode. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Skip another 5 minutes. See if he says something.
So polite and so respectable and so amazing and so professional, and I just ruined it.
And he has, by the way, Tommy, you don't see this part, 3.75 million subscribers.
Wow.
He became a personality. He became memeable. He started posting less content, so he doesn't post as often. But he's he's in Palm Beach, by the way.
Wow.
706 videos. And he started out, so you Google him, Google young Nico Avocado, see what he looks like.
It's just waterweight.com.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to him, I guess. See if you can find him before we let.
There's a
send
lot
out
of
the handcuffs.
there's a lot of side by sides.
Yeah. Hey, while he's looking that up, did you see? I think it was yesterday. There's like I can't remember what state it was, but they got so sick and tired of the border shit. He has like a hat on and sunglasses, and he's like Mr. Dictator. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Fuck, do you know what I'm talking about, Rob? I gotta find it for you next time. Wow, that was him before?
Yeah, that's how skinny he was.
Wow. He was like a good-looking kid.
Yeah, he's a local. You could have him on, I'm sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, hey, some people quit smoking for their New Year's resolution. Others join the gym. YouTuber Kato Alvarez at the same aim of hitting 400 pounds.
He had this weird video where he was kind of, he's like, why are you guys here? You know why you're here.
KFC. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts of being a kid. But as I got older, started working out, I had to watch out for sugar and empty carbs. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you'll love, but high protein and less sugar. The variety pack, 4 flavors, cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. This pack has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs. Only 140 calories per serving. It's high protein, 0 grams of sugar, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. The fruity one, I'm done for. I can eat the whole box, no problem. Go to magicspoon.com/MSCS to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use promo code MSCS at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That says something. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of high-protein cereal at magicspoon.com/MSCS and use the code MSCS to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode. Burger King. I wonder if they gave him money.
Probably.
So that's how a lot of them will make money, is trying food. And then, just like the typical model, you grow your following and they're like, hey, eat 30 McDoubles, and I think that's what a lot of them want to do for their business model. It's food advertisement. It's very interesting.
It is.
And I don't even remember what brought that up.
We were just...
Me looking at TikTok in the shower. I think that's where that came from. But, that, and eating with people. So how long was that video? I think it was 20 minutes.
36.
30. Yeah. So how long? What if you're just chilling eating? You're all lunch break. Yeah. And I remember my first job. You go in the lunchroom, and sometimes you're there by yourself.
Yeah, nothing to do. You're just sitting there.
I mean, as crazy it is to watch that and be like, that's just weird to me, and I don't know how people are watching this and how it's happening. I'm thinking about it as we're sitting here watching. I'm like, he's still working.
Yeah.
It's his job.
Yeah.
Like, he's creating content, and maybe stupid to me, and I'm like, this is crazy, and he's probably making millions of dollars by doing it, but he's working. He's
but like Sam told you, I'm going to tell somebody,
right.
Like this kid, like you wouldn't believe it.
Now and ask my kids if they heard of him, and they did.
And you haven't heard of him,
no.
And look at the following.
Yeah.
And that's our, who's the rapper that I didn't know?
Oh, it's Suge Knight.
Suge Knight. I mean, he's not our Suge Knight, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my generation knows Nico Avocado very,
Yeah.
So and why would you know him if you're older? Because
Right.
old people aren't browsing YouTube, So for a YouTube personality or a meme, who knows?
Yeah, I'm not digging for memes and like
Very
shit.
few people, and these personalities are interesting, very few people bridge that divide. Alex Jones is one of those, young or old, you know who he is because he's memeable, but he's been around long enough. I think Elon Musk is kind of like that now, very memeable, been around long enough. So those personalities are who's interesting, like a Snoop Dogg. Everyone my age knows Snoop Dogg.
And watching how they adjust.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, next time we're going to video you going in the cold plunge with Rob and me.
Yeah.
So you can take it the longest. So when are you back
it'll
down
just
here?
be us.
When you come?
Whenever. Yeah.
Soon.
I'm down here at least once a quarter.
Okay. So January, February, we're all going to do it and so you can win and film it and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Do the cold plunge. The one time in Florida, it's like 30 degrees out.
It doesn't need to be. It could be 100 degrees. You'll jump in there, you'll die.
You're not going to have a guy there anymore. You're just
hey, I did the polar bear challenge years ago in Pennsylvania where we jumped into a lake when it was 22 degrees outside. There was snow on the ground. It was ice. We jumped into the lake, jumped in, and then swam really quick back to shore. So I was in probably about 20 seconds.
How old?
I was like 14 maybe at the time.
You won't last 20 seconds.
No?
I don't think so. 30, no way. How long do you think it'll last? Let's write it down now for the next
What's
one.
the temperature of the water?
Where are we going to put the temp at?
probably like, 35, 37,
Oh, no. We'll do 39.
39.
And you said I won't last how long?
Hell no.
How long?
30 seconds? No. A minute? No way.
Hold on.
Actually,
Whole body down to your neck.
So it's all covered to here.
you're
supposed
covered
to
to
be.
here. I say you can't. You're pretty tough and strong-minded. I'll bet you don't break a minute. What do you think? He's never done it.
It's tough because if you can break a minute,
No, I don't think he can break a minute.
if we make fun of him enough, he could probably do it out of spite.
How long do you think he can take it? You went in 55 degrees. Okay.
You think it was 55,
Yeah.
the bag of ice?
Right.
You don't
I
think
know
it's
it
colder
was.
than that?
I know it was because I tried it.
With just doing the ice?
Yeah, because before I got like the
Can't
cold,
get any colder than that?
you can get it down to at best you get it down to like high 40s.
But you're not getting.
You're not breaking. I mean, you'll be lucky to break 50.
Yeah, it's true. The first minute's the hardest. If you can get past the first minute, it gets exponentially higher that you can make it, I think, to the next 30 seconds.
What changes, meaning when you jump in and it's cold, is your body just, I need to get out because I'm freezing, or what is it?
Your body's like, you're dying. Like, it's every flight reflex you get. And I know a lot of people who do it often enough to where, even though it's still a shock, mentally they're prepared. And so they don't have that as bad. But if you never do it, it's such a new experience. Like
you lose your breath really quick.
You lose your breath.
You weren't here for Wim Hof,
yeah.
But you got to watch. It's all about breathing. Because if you don't,
you get that.
It's not just that. If you don't control the breathing, you're going to be shaking like you're having a seizure, and like everything gets tight, and you start to get scared. Like you're like, oh fuck, oh.
Okay,
fuck.
so hold on. So one more time, you're saying I won't last 30 seconds?
I'm gonna say you will. I don't think you'll last 30 seconds, but I think you will. So I just fucked myself. But 1 minute, no longer than you will not hit a minute, and you won't hit a minute either.
Okay,
that's my bet. And me, by that time, I probably won't be past
come back for the next.
But he's
podcast.
lucky he can prep. He can prep.
Yeah,
He's got it at his house.
I'm not getting past 2
I
minutes.
have a non-heated pool, so if it gets in the 30s,
non-heated pool will never get that.
Yeah,
cold.
keep working on that.
Yeah.
So we got to get you back in the new year, and let's do this.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow,
Thank
this
you
is
guys.
really great. I didn't know any of this. Man, thanks for your time. Shout out your YouTube. What's YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube, just Samuel Arms. Just go like, subscribe, follow me if you want more of what's in my head, if you found it useful. And I'm on Twitter, Samuel Arms, TikTok, Instagram, all Samuel Arms.
And we'll have that all up top. Check out his YouTube. Everything we talked about's on there. I learned a lot today.
It was a good one.
Good one. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Tommy.
All right, buddy. This episode is sponsored by Aurora. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is? For years, this crime rate has been surging and affecting millions of Americans. I'm talking about identity theft, and there's a new victim every 14 seconds. Yet despite this, those who have had their identity stolen are often shocked when it happens. That's why I'm excited to partner with Aurora, who is sponsoring this video. Aurora is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all into one easy-to-use app. Their VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. Protect you and your family from America's fastest growing crime. Try Aurora for free for 2 weeks and see if you or anyone in your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial today. Go to aurora.com/MSCS. The link is in the description below.